Chapter 69. During the battle at the top of the mountain, Su Ming and Yi Wang had used all their strength in a frenzy. Su Ming's burning of blood and Yi Wang's forceful absorption of the elder's berserker blood were things that most of the people in the field at the foot of the mountain did not know about. However, as the battle reached its most intense state, the emotions of the people in the field also reached its peak. A battle between titans. This is what a true battle between titans looks like. Yi Wang went from the 845th step to the 861st step, but Mo Su is still chasing after him. The gap between them was originally 20 to 30 steps, but he's now at the 859th step. He's only 2 steps away from Yi Wang. Just who will be first? The sounds of discussion, uproar, and exclamations continuously rose in the square. The excitement and anticipation of the crowd had already disregarded all the complicated matters at this moment. Instead, it had become a single thing. They wanted to know who would be first. Who would be first? This question also stirred up a storm among the group of prodigies who were ranked in the top 50. Their excitement was not any less than the others. The more they understood Yi Wang, the more they understood the pressure at the top of the mountain and the terrifying pressure coming from the 800th step, the more excited they became. Yi Wang has been first so many times in a row. This time, will he be able to maintain his position? This Mo Su, he's just too strong. He actually managed to force Yi Wang so close to him. He's only 2 steps away. I originally thought that Yi Wang would definitely be the strongest within the area ruled by Windstream Tribe. No one else could compare to him, but today, I know that I've underestimated him. Compared to these people, the leaders of the tribes had already stood up and were staring at the statue. Their expressions were no longer just filled with shock, but shock and amazement. Which tribe does Mo Su belong to? Who is he? If he really managed to defeat Yi Wang, then it will definitely be a huge shock to Windstream Tribe. No matter what Mo Su's rank is, from today onwards, everyone will know about him. Bei Ling clenched his fists in excitement. There was a voice in his heart that was screaming and roaring. He hoped that Mo Su would win. At the side, Wu Lei's face was flushed with excitement. She had already stood up and was watching the fight between the first and second place. Chen Cheng was also staring at Mo Su's name on the eagle statue with a dumbfounded expression. If someone had told him that before the first stage began, Su Ming had surrounded him with a group of people and watched him talk and laugh as he walked towards Bai Ling, Chen Cheng would definitely not have believed them. Bai Su clenched his fists tightly and glared at the statue. His eyes burned with anger and crazed jealousy. He still believed that the glory that belonged to Mo Su should have belonged to him, but Mo Su had snatched it away. In the corner far away, Jingnan could no longer remain calm. Shock appeared on his face. He was also shocked when he saw the name on the statue and Yi Wang's sudden explosion. He could guess that Yi Wang must have forcefully absorbed the berserker blood. This Su Ming, just who is he? What kind of blood does he have? He has such potential? Jingnan took a deep breath. He could not hide the shock on his face. Mo sang, Is he really the prince of Great Yu Dynasty? Jingnan hesitated for a moment before he asked in a low voice. Mo sang, smiled faintly. He did not speak. In truth, he could not remain calm at that moment either. There was a huge storm raging in his heart. At that moment, the fog on the mountain tumbled about, and the mountain trembled. The roars coming from the top of the mountain became clearer. There seemed to be an indescribable meaning contained within those roars. Su Ming trembled. There was madness on his face. He pressed his right index finger against his right eye. Half of his right eye's pupil was dyed red with blood. The difficulty of the third burning of blood had exceeded Su Ming's expectations. He did not expect that he would not be able to complete the third burning of blood, even though there was such a strong pressure from the outside world helping him. Compared to the previous 2 burning of blood, the previous 2 could not even be mentioned in the same breath. It was as if the third burning of blood was a barrier, a bottleneck. He stood on the 859th step. This was still not the place he longed for. As the burning of blood continued, Su Ming's entire body seemed to be engulfed in flames. The blood in his body seemed to be going through some sort of change. From normal blood, it was rapidly turning into fire. The pain in his body and the pressure from the outside world made Su Ming think of giving up. Yet when he remembered the danger the tribe was in and remembered the elder's old and worried face, Su Ming could endure all the pain. He wanted to become stronger. He wanted to help the elder. He wanted to protect his home and his tribe. He wanted to kill the enemies for the tribe. He wanted to use his blood to tell the enemies that Dark Mountain tribe was not to be trampled on. Su Ming let out a roar, as if he wanted to vent his pain with that roar. As he roared, he continued swiping his right index finger across his right eye slowly, but with determination and resolution. At that moment, no matter who tried to stop Su Ming's determination to protect the tribe and his tribe, they would become Su Ming's mortal enemy. Su Ming's eyes seemed to be burning with fire. He lifted his feet and walked forward madly. One step after another, from the 859th step, he walked to the 860th, 861st, 862nd, 863rd, until he reached the 877th step. Blood mist gushed out of his body once again. He had reached his limit. 877th was his limit. He could no longer go any further. Burning of blood. At the instant he reached his limit, Su Ming lifted his head and let out a roar. As his roar reverberated in the air, the brightest light of the night erupted from the moon in the sky. No one could see moonlight descending from the sky and surging into Su Ming's body. The mountain under Su Ming's feet rumbled and trembled. The fog surged into the sky with an intensity that had never been seen before and enveloped the entire area. Vaguely, it seemed to have turned into a strange shape. It was like the shape of a gigantic beast, but it was blurry and could not be seen clearly. As the entire mountain trembled, an indescribably strange presence erupted from the mountain with a bang. With Su Ming as the center, it surged towards him. At the instant it seeped into his body, Su Ming's right index finger dyed his right eye completely red. The third burning of blood was completed. A loud roar came from within Su Ming's body. All the blood veins on his body surfaced and increased by a large amount. As the blood veins appeared, the feeling of strength within Su Ming's body became stronger. Almost in an instant, the number of blood veins on Su Ming's body surpassed 109. As the roar continued, he broke through the 5th level of the blood solidification realm and reached the 6th level. The 6th level of the blood solidification realm. The blood veins were still increasing. As they appeared one by one, Su Ming lifted his foot and walked towards the 878th step. The moment his foot landed, the entire mountain trembled once again. As the strange presence continued surging into the mountain, Su Ming walked to the 879th step and continued. 883, 885, 889. When he reached the 899th step, the number of blood veins on Su Ming's body increased to 156. All the qi within his body seemed to have turned into flames. It was as if his body contained a ball of fire that wanted to burn the sky and earth. Yet in his eyes, the shadow of the blood moon slowly disappeared and was hidden away. It was as if once he completed the third burning of blood, it would be hidden within his body and not a single trace of it would be revealed. Only then could he be considered to have reached the initial stage of the fire berserker art. Su Ming lifted his foot and took a swift step forward, standing on the 900th step. He stood there and looked upwards. From his position, he could see the statue of a beast crouching at the top of the mountain, not too far away from where he stood. An indescribable feeling filled Su Ming's heart and soul. The statue of the beast looked like a tiger, but it had 2 gigantic wings. It looked as if it was struggling to fly up, but there were countless chains locking it down. A strong resentment filled the air, and there was also a desolate air about it. He looked at the beast statue and had a feeling that the beast statue was also looking at him. The man and the beast stood at the top of the mountain, separated by nearly 100 steps. It was as if they were separated by time as they looked at each other quietly. After a long while, Su Ming closed his eyes. He could feel a familiar presence from the beast statue. It belonged to the fire berserker. This was a strange beast belonging to the fire berserker tribe. With his eyes closed, Su Ming could also feel it. The 900th step was the 7th step that he had been looking for. It was the place where the pressure was balanced. As he stood there, the 156 blood veins on his body quickly dissipated as his heart pounded. Just as dawn was about to disappear and the sky was about to brighten, Su Ming began his final refinement. Yi Wang's hair was a mess. His face was filled with extreme madness. Every 10 steps he took, he would strike his own chest without hesitation. The picture of the horn became fainter, and the red glow on his body also became fainter. He continued walking without care for anything else. His pride and his dignity would not allow him to lose. 881, 882 up to 897, 899. Yi Wang struck his own chest with his right hand. The picture of the horned berserker dissipated. Once it completely disappeared, it gained the final bit of power that filled Yi Wang's entire body. It allowed Yi Wang to roar as he walked to the 900th step. He took a few more steps and landed on the 905th step. At that moment, Yi Wang coughed out blood and his body fell slowly. The plate in his hand fell off his body and turned into a black mist that enveloped Yi Wang before disappearing from the mountain. Su Ming was the only one left on the mountain. It was dead silent all around him. The field was also silent. When Yi Wang appeared in the field, he was unconscious. Under Jing Nan's dark gaze, there were naturally people who went forward and quickly helped Yi Wang up. They helped him recover his breathing in a corner. There was only one name on the 9 eagle statues that did not turn gray. 2ND Mo Su, 900th step. Everyone was waiting. Chapter 70. There was no sound of discussion in the field. At that moment, everyone was breathing heavily as they stared at the only name that had not turned gray on the 9 eagle statues. Mo Su was only 5 steps away from the first place. At that moment, Yi Wang, who was ranked first, slowly opened his eyes as Hai and the others helped him regulate his breathing. There were still traces of blood in his eyes as he stared at the ranks on the eagle statues. There was a complicated look on his face. Hai lowered his head as if he was saying something to Yi Wang, but Yi Wang ignored him, as if he did not hear him. He continued staring at the ranks on the eagle statues without blinking. Hai frowned and sighed in his heart before he turned around and left. I am Yi Wang, and I will definitely not lose. I won't play any tricks either. Yi Wang clenched his fists. At that moment, he was no longer the arrogant strongest among the younger generation. He was a normal tribe member who had given it his all and managed to reach the 905th step, but was injured and had to leave. The anxiety in his heart was much stronger than anyone else's. However, even so, he still had his pride and dignity. He felt that Hai's suggestion was a humiliation to him. In the silence, the breathing of the crowd became clearer, especially those tribe members who had treated Su Ming as a form of entertainment. Now, their minds were blank, and the only thing left in their minds was disbelief and shock. They had witnessed a miracle with their own eyes. They had witnessed a rise to power, and they had witnessed a madness that shocked them to their core. There had never been such a person who had climbed to the top from the last place. There had never been such a person who had surpassed Wu Sun, surpassed Bai Su, surpassed Chinchong. There had never been such a person who had forced Yi Wang to be injured and forced him to leave Windstream Mountain, causing the mountain to only belong to one person, Mo Su. The group of blazing suns that had entered the top 50 were also deathly silent. They silently looked at the 9 statues of Mo Su, and their expressions were complicated. There was envy, jealousy, anticipation, and so on. At this moment, there was no doubt that all of these things were revealed. The leaders of the tribes were the same. There was no difference in their expressions. Mo Su had already reached an incredibly high position in their hearts. This sort of person would definitely stir up a storm once he returned. There were far too many people who wanted to know who this person was. What did he look like? However, Su Ming had been far too ordinary previously. Before the test, few people had even noticed his existence. Even the man who had dragged him to meet Chinchong was looking at the name on the eagle statue nervously. There was excitement and anticipation in his eyes. Only an old man with a protruding mouth and a chin like a monkey's stood in the crowd with a face full of shock. He was certain that every time someone gave up, he would be the first to see that person. But now, when all the participants other than Mo-Su had returned to the field, he was dumbfounded to discover that the little fellow he had found the first time was not among them. "It can't," Bei Qiong mumbled. He looked at Mo-Su, name on the eagle statue. He could not believe it. Could it really be him? Mo Sang and Windstream, Tribes Jing, Nan stood in a corner far away. They did not speak to each other. They looked at the eagle statue in silence. Mo Sang's expression might have seemed normal, but his heart was filled with shock. As for Jing Nan, he had witnessed the entire process of Su Ming's rise to power. At that moment, he could no longer hide the shock on his face. He did not expect that Su Ming, who was previously like an ant in his eyes and was not valued at all, who even made him feel that he would be lucky if he could get into the top 50, would surpass his expectations time and time again. He had surprised him one after another, and now he had shocked him even more. Jing Nan's heart was heavy towards Su Ming's origins. Mo Sang's words from the day before echoed in his head once again, making him even more uncertain. After a long, long time, when the people in the field did not show any signs of impatience and were all waiting, light appeared in the horizon in the distance. When morning arrived, Su Ming stood on the 900th step and opened his eyes. There was only one blood vein on his body. As he opened his eyes, the blood vein disappeared. He lifted his head and looked at the top of the mountain that was illuminated by light. It was a pity that the mountain was shrouded in fog. It was not as bright as it was at night. Su Ming remained silent for a moment before he picked up the plate in his hands and lowered his head to look at it. 905. Su Ming mumbled. "Since I've already come this far, then I might as well compete with him." Su Ming lifted his head abruptly. A resolute look appeared in his eyes. He took a deep breath of the cool morning air and lifted his feet, moving swiftly towards the 901st step. Yet now it was dawn. There was no moonlight. Su Ming could feel the pressure pressing down on him. Fortunately, the pressure had lessened a lot as the sun rose. In comparison, it was about the same as the pressure Su Ming felt during the night. Yet even so, this was above the 900th step. This place was infinitesimally close to the summit of the mountain. The pressure in this place was strong enough to crush a person to death. Even if it was just one step, it would definitely be equivalent to taking a few steps below, dozens of steps, or even hundreds of steps. The moment Su Ming's right foot landed, his body trembled violently. All 156 blood veins on his body rose abruptly. As they surrounded his body, they madly fought against the pressure that came crashing down on him. Su Ming moved. At the instant he moved, the people in the field beneath him who had been waiting in silence for a long time felt as if they had been suppressing their emotions for a long time. And now, an explosive outburst broke out. As Su Ming moved, an uproar shook the sky. 901. He made it to the 901st step. Countless pairs of eyes fell on the only name that did not turn gray on the 9 eagle statues. At that moment, they forgot everything else. In their eyes and minds, the only thing left was the row of names that did not turn dark. Chun Chung shuddered and took in a sharp breath. He stared at the name with rapt attention. To him, this was definitely the climax of the test. In fact, it was much more intense than all the previous tests. He did not want to miss even a single thing. Bai Su clenched his fist tightly. The chilling glare in his eyes grew stronger. The jealousy contained within seemed to have turned into a thick, killing intent filled with resentment. The tribe leader of Black Mountain Tribe was also filled with killing intent. He stared at Mo-Su's name on the eagle statue, and his face was as dark as ice that would never melt. 902. The moment the number behind Mo-Su's name turned into 902, all the people in the field felt their hearts skip a beat. It was as if Su Ming did not just step on the stairs, he also stepped on the emotions of the people in the field. This was an incredibly rare sight. This scene was enough to show just how important Su Ming was in the eyes of the people in the field. It was enough to show that each and every one of his actions affected the emotions of all the people in the field. In the past, this was the glory and pride that belonged solely to Yi Wang. Yet now, Yi Wang had become a bystander. He sat not too far away. In his silence, his emotions also jumped as Su Ming's number changed. This feeling was unfamiliar to him. It was something that he would never forget. 903. 903. Just 2 more steps, and he'll be on the same level as Yi Wang. Just 3 steps, and he'll surpass Yi Wang and become the first. Can he be the first? The pupils of the old woman from Dark Dragon tribe shrank, and her breathing quickened. Bai Ling, who was by her side, was no longer in a daze. She lifted her head and looked at Mo Su's name on the eagle statue. She frowned slightly. Shan Hen was still sitting in silence in Dark Mountain Tribe. He may still be the same, but there was a strange glint in his narrowed eyes. Bai Ling's face was filled with excitement. With his status in Dark Mountain Tribe, he would normally not show such an expression on his face. He would purposely act aloof. Yet now he could not suppress his excitement. He even had a feeling that he was in Mo Su's shoes. That excitement that surpassed the excitement of the prodigy from Windstream Tribe made him clench his fists in excitement. Wu La was even more excited than him. Her face was flushed red. She stood there as if her heart was pounding against her chest. She wished that the person called Mo Su could take a few more steps forward. Lei Chen gave up on the idea that Mo Su was Su Ming. He felt that this idea was too far-fetched. 903. Mo Su has reached 903. Wu La was still a little girl. She immediately shouted excitedly and pointed at the number on the eagle statue. Her eyes were filled with excitement. There was also a strange emotion that could be faintly discerned within her eyes. An even stronger commotion stirred up in the field. As the buzzing sounds echoed in the air, Yi Wang sat cross-legged on the ground. His eyes were bloodshot once again. He clenched his fists tightly. The complicated feelings in his heart could not be described with words. He was once a prodigy. He used to stand at the top of the mountain and receive the attention and expectations of the people in the field. Yet now, he had become one of the people in the field. This change was difficult for him to accept. The cries of surprise and commotion that traveled into his ears were like sharp blades stabbing into his chest. It was painful. Su Ming stood on the 903rd step. He might be standing straight, but his body was trembling, making him look as if he was about to fall. Even if it was daytime, the pressure that came crashing down on him from the 900th step was so strong that it was unimaginable. He had only taken 3 steps when Su Ming felt as if he had reached his limit. The pain coming from his body could no longer be withstood by his blood veins. Cracking sounds echoed in his ears. It was the sound of all the bones in his body reaching their limits. Su Ming panted harshly as he stood there. His heart was pounding as if it was about to collapse. It also turned into a sharp pain that made his face pale. There were still 2 more steps to the 905th step. He could not even rest there. Due to the presence of the pressure, even if he rested, it would still make it difficult for him to circulate his qi. Su Ming's body trembled. He lifted his right foot abruptly and landed on the 904th step. The moment his foot landed, his entire body let out a roar and he coughed out a mouthful of blood. Su Ming's body looked as if it was about to fall, but he forced himself to endure it. Once he stood firm, his left foot also landed on the 904th step. His entire body felt weak. It was as if the entire mountain was pressing down on him. The world spun around him. Chapter 71. 904. The moment Su Ming stepped onto the 904th step, all the people in the field below felt their hearts thump at the same time. Jing Nan's expression was complicated. He looked at Mo Su's name on the eagle statue and remained silent. Mo Sang, who was by his side, also did not say anything. Yi Wang's heart pounded against his chest as he stood in the distance. He originally wanted to continue sitting, but he stood up instinctively. He stared at Mo Su's name on the eagle statue and did not look anywhere else. He did not even attract anyone's attention when he stood up. At that moment, all the people's gazes were on Mo Su's name on the eagle statues. Nervousness, depression, and silence formed a strange force that enveloped the entire field like a mighty pressure, causing the place to fall into true silence. They were waiting. They were waiting for Su Ming to take another step and reach the 905th step. The number behind Emo Su's name did not change even after a long while. Yet all the people were still waiting. No one spoke, no one discussed. Even the sound of their breathing became weaker. After a long while, the number behind Emo Su's name suddenly changed. It changed from 904 to 905. The moment the change occurred, the entire field erupted as well. Sounds rose from all directions and shook the entire field. 905. He's at the same level as Yi Wang. Emo Su. Emo Su. Emo Su. Yi Wang's face was pale. It was as if a huge force had crashed into his body. He staggered 2 steps back, and his eyes gradually became dull. A broken smile appeared on his face. At that moment, Su Ming stood on the 905th step. His face was also pale. He wanted to take another step forward, but he no longer had any strength left. He turned around and looked at the top of the mountain that was shrouded in fog. Su Ming panted harshly, but his eyes were bright. He may not have reached the top, but at that moment he was undoubtedly standing at the top. Su Ming lifted his head slowly. He looked at the world in the distance through the gaps in the fog. He saw an indistinct expanse of land. He did not know where that place was and whether there was another tribe there. That place was very, very far away. A gust of wind blew past and lifted Su Ming's long hair, blowing away the sweat on his body. Su Ming took out the plate and threw it down the mountain. The plate immediately fell down and turned into a gust of black fog that charged towards Su Ming as if it wanted to take him away from the mountain. When a ball of black fog closed in on him and enveloped his entire body, he turned into a long arc made of black fog and rushed out of the mountain at an incredible speed. As the sky and earth twisted, he rushed out of the sealed wind stream mountain. When Emo Su's name on the 9 eagle statues on the field turned gray, the world suddenly distorted, and a gust of black fog flew out and landed in the center of the field. Everyone's gazes gathered on the square at that instant. Wu Sun had already stood up and looked at the black fog that had appeared on the square. He looked at the blurry figure that was revealed as the black fog dissipated. He clenched his fists and stared at the indistinct figure in the fog that gradually became clearer. He wanted to know just who Emo Su was. Bai Su was the same. The killing intent in his eyes was incredibly strong. At that moment, he did not bother to hide it. He clenched his fists and glared at the figure in the fog. They were not the only ones. Everyone in the field reacted the same way. The hundreds of people who had been paying attention to Emo Su for the past 2 days were all looking at the black fog with respect on their faces. They were looking at the figure walking out slowly from within the fog. Besides the spectators, the ones who were paying more attention to Emo Su were the people who joined the first stage of the test like Su Ming. No matter what rank they were ranked in, all of them held their breaths and focused their gazes on the figure in the fog. The old woman from Dark Dragon Tribe looked at the figure in the fog with bright eyes. She wanted to know what that person looked like and which tribe he belonged to. Si Kong was nervous and looked over as well. Bai Ling, who was by his side, was also affected by the solemn atmosphere in the field due to Emo Su's return. She could not help but look over as well. Bei Ling, Wu La, Lei Chun, the head of the guards, Shan Hen, and all the other people from the other tribes were looking at the rapidly dispersing fog. Yuan took a deep breath, as if he had calmed down the complicated feelings in his heart. He stared at the approaching fog and the person who walked out of it. All eyes were on him. As the fog disappeared and Su Ming walked out, his body became the center of attention of countless pairs of eyes. When the fog completely disappeared and his face was clearly revealed to all the people in the field, the entire field fell into dead silence. He had a normal face and a normal demeanor. He was dressed in a normal bee-skin shirt. He did not have Wu Sen's sullenness, Chen Chang's aura of being surrounded by the stars, Bai Su's mysteriousness, and Yi Wang's arrogance. If he was placed in the crowd, it would be difficult for others to notice him. He was so normal that he could not be any more normal. Yet everyone knew that this person might have been normal before the first stage of the test, but now he was definitely not normal. He was like the prodigy of the sun that shocked the world. When Chen Chong saw Su Ming, he was momentarily stunned. He did not expect this person to be so normal. He was so normal that it was hard for people to remember him. Yet he had a vague impression that this person was one of the people who surrounded him before the test. Yet at that time, Ching did not pay any attention to this person. He had completely ignored him. Bai Su also saw Su Ming. He did not have much of an impression of Su Ming. Even if he had seen him before, he had completely ignored him. When he saw Su Ming, Bai Su was also stunned. Wu Sen's gaze remained fixed on Su Ming, and his pupils shrank. His instincts told him that there was a high possibility that this person was the one who had snatched his blood of corpses, but anguish appeared on Wu Sen's face. He did not dare ask for it. This Mo Su was a prodigy just like Yu Wang. From this day onwards, his name would spread through all directions. The old woman from Dark Dragon tribe looked at the normal-looking Su Ming, and admiration slowly appeared in her eyes. First impressions were very important when it came to a person's likes and dislikes. It was just like how she looked down on Su Ming and admired Mo Su. If she knew that these two people were actually the same person, how shocked and conflicted would she be? Si Kong's heart pounded against his chest. Respect appeared in his eyes. He admired powerful warriors, especially the person before him. He was a prodigy, just like Yu Wang. Bai Ling stared at Su Ming with a dumbfounded expression. Her body trembled lightly. She saw Su Ming's eyes, and those eyes were familiar to her. However, she did not know that 2 days ago, those eyes had also appeared and looked at her. Bai Ling, Wu La, Lei Chun, and all the people from Dark Mountain Tribe watched as Su Ming walked forward. The area was still quiet. Su Ming's heart pounded against his chest. He might have looked calm on the outside, but he was incredibly nervous in his heart. He had never been the center of so many people's attention before. After all, he was still a child. As Su Ming walked forward, the crowd slowly parted to form a path. It was as if the normal-looking Su Ming also had a light that could burn others, forcing them to move back. Perhaps he did not have Wu Sen's gloominess, but his ordinary face gave off the feeling of calmness and terror before a storm. Perhaps he did not have Chun Chang's popularity, but his ordinary body contained the unswerving determination that could break through all the stars and moons. He did not need to be surrounded by the stars. He might not be as arrogant as Yu Wang, but he had the right to make the arrogant Yu Wang have to look at him. It's him. There was a man in the crowd who had moved back to make way for Mo Su. His face was blank. He was the one who had dragged Su Ming to meet Ching. He would never have imagined that the person he had dragged was Mo Su. In the distance, the monkey-faced old man also widened his eyes. He might have made some guesses, but now that he saw it with his own eyes, he still found it hard to believe. Before the first stage of the test, there were 3 people who were the center of attention in the field: Ching, Bai Ling, and Yu Wang. These 3 people were like the center of attention and attracted a lot of people's attention. Yet now, there was only one person who was the center of attention in the field: Mo Su. As Su Ming walked forward, a voice rang out from the silent crowd. That voice belonged to Yu Wang. Su Ming stopped and turned his head around. For the first time, his gaze met Yu Wang's, and it was on equal footing. It was completely different from when Su Ming looked at him from the crowd before the test. Mo Su, let's compete again in the second stage. Yu Wang spoke slowly, with a determined look on his face. Even if it was a tie, and they were tied for first place, with his pride, he still could not accept it. He wanted to compete a second and a third time. I won't participate in the second stage. Su Ming was silent for a moment before he spoke calmly. He respected Yu Wang and his opponent. Once he finished speaking, Su Ming turned around and his gaze fell on the elder, Mo Sang. He saw the smile on the elder's face and saw the meaning in his eyes that he did not want Su Ming to reveal his identity. Su Ming averted his gaze. This time, he looked towards Dark Dragon Tribe and Bai Ling, who was standing beside the old woman. Su Ming smiled faintly and walked towards Bai Ling with the nervousness of being the center of attention. Can I go around in circles with you tomorrow night? Su Ming walked towards Bai Ling, ignoring the stunned old woman and the excited Si Kong. Instead, he looked into Bai Ling's eyes and spoke softly, winking at her. Bai Ling was stunned. She did not know what to say, But when she heard the words go around in circles and saw Su Ming winking and the familiarity in his eyes, she shuddered and a blush appeared on her cheeks. She nodded her head. Chapter 72. Su Ming left. As he left, the crowd in the field also gradually dispersed. They hurriedly followed the leaders of their tribes back to Wine Stream City. The first stage of the test ended there. After a night of rest, the second stage of the test would be held the next morning. The second stage of the test may not be a real battle, but it was highly related to the participants' levels of power. In the past, there were many people who only participated in the first stage and did not participate in the remaining two stages. However, these people were mostly ranked beyond the top 50. There had never been a person who did not participate in the remaining two stages after getting into the top 10 of the first stage of the test. That was why the conversation between Su Ming and Yi Wang had stirred up a storm in the hearts of the people in the field. However, no one talked about it. They only watched Su Ming leave quietly. It was especially so for the participants who were prepared to participate in the test the next morning. They had to seize the time and use the night to train so that they could maintain their peak condition and get rid of some of the injuries caused by the pressure in the first stage. Chun Chong and the others were also injured quite badly because they had forced their way through the first stage. They needed the help of the powerful berserkers in their tribe to recover to their peak condition the next morning. Even the elder of Windstream tribe, Jing Nan, did not have much free time. Yi Wang's forceful absorption of his berserker blood would leave behind a great hidden injury. He had to take care of it. When they came, Hai was the one who brought Su Ming. When they left, it was the same. Hai looked as if he wanted to say something, but in the end he remained silent. With a wave of his arm, he swept Su Ming away from the place and rushed towards Windstream City. As the crowd dispersed, the field became even more deserted. Mo Sang stood there with a smile on his face, as if he was waiting for Jing Nan to say something. Jing Nan's face was no longer dark. He frowned and fell into silence for a long time before he looked at Mo Sang. The first request you made when you used the ancestral berserker art was for Dark Mountain Tribe to join Windstream Tribe when you think it's suitable and receive Windstream's protection. Your goal is nothing more than to give Black Mountain Tribes by 2 a chance. A chance for your tribe's defenses to be greatly weakened after 3 powerful warriors from Dark Mountain Tribe left in one go. If by 2 comes to Windstream, you can take the chance to observe the changes in his power. If he doesn't come, then it means that there is something unfathomable about his power. Your plan of killing 2 birds with 1 stone is ruthless. Jing Nan looked at Mo Sang and enunciated each word clearly. I didn't intend to hide it from you, Mo said with a smile. If by 2 comes, you can change your plan. If he doesn't come, you can leave behind an empty tribe and lure him to attack. In fact, I'm certain that you have a backup plan in the tribe. If by 2 really invades Dark Mountain Tribe, then due to the promise we made, Dark Mountain Tribe will become Windstream subsidiary tribe. By 2 will be wary of you. You also know by 2's personality. If he has just reached a breakthrough in his power, he will definitely be arrogant, and I will have to attack, or else Windstream will lose all its prestige in the area. If we can't even protect a subsidiary tribe, then people will think that we're afraid of by Tuesday, Jing Nan spoke slowly. In truth, he had already thought of these things when he was talking to Mo Sang in the chamber, but he did not say it out loud. Instead, he wanted to leave it there and think about it carefully in the future, so that he could make Mo Sang pay an even greater price. Now he had found that price. That's right. That's what I was thinking. It's a pity that by 2 didn't attack. Mo Sang frowned slightly and looked at Jing Nan. There was a complicated look in Jing Nan's eyes as he met Mo Sang's gaze. After a long while, he sighed softly. If it wasn't for the fact that you look so different from that child, I would really think that he's your blood. Jing Nan lifted his head and looked in the direction where Su Ming had disappeared. In my heart, he's my blood. A nostalgic look flashed briefly in Mo Sang's eyes as he spoke softly. Mo Sang, when it comes to intelligence, I can't compare to you. This has nothing to do with our levels of cultivation. I knew it when I was young. You knew that I would see through the hidden meaning behind your request. You also knew that with my personality, I wouldn't immediately refute you, but would wait for the right time to ask for more benefits. You knew all of this. That's why you pushed the benefits right before my eyes, so that I couldn't help but be tempted. Everything you did was not just for the tribe, but also for this child. You knew how outstanding Su Ming was a long time ago. Jing Nan spoke slowly. Mo Sang looked at Jing Nan and smiled without saying a word. You asked him to hide his identity and appear in this place with a different appearance to show off his potential, so that I could see it. By doing so, even if Dark Mountain Tribe becomes an affiliated tribe, he wouldn't be affected. You gave him another path, a path that you didn't choose in the past. Jing Nan's expression became even more complicated as he looked at Mo Sang. You know that Windstream doesn't care about prodigies appearing in the tribes around us. In fact, Windstream Tribe hopes that a young prodigy will appear in other tribes. Because once such a person appears, Windstream will immediately bring that person over and make him a member of Windstream. It will also bring great benefits to his original tribe. Many people don't understand this, because Windstream is jealous of talent. Even if we explain it, no one will believe us. Only you know the truth. You know the truth, but you still asked him to hide his appearance. It's for his own good. After all, the tallest tree in the forest will be destroyed by the wind. Adding a layer of concealment is a form of protection for him. At the same time, you don't want him to have to bear the fate of being affiliated to us. When he grows up in the future, even if his identity is revealed, it's fine. At that time, he will already have the ability to catch everyone's attention. He can also protect Dark Mountain Tribe, which is affiliated to us. Jing Nan looked at the few people left in the field and spoke slowly. You've succeeded. I'm very interested in this child. Let him stay in Windstream. I'll give him the same help I gave Yi Wang. It's just like I told you before. Between him and Yi Wang, whoever transcends first will be the Berserker son of Windstream. Even if he's later than Yi Wang, with his potential, I'll still make him a prodigy. He'll open up Windstream with Yi Wang. As for Dark Mountain Tribe, once the test ends, come to Windstream. That by two won't dare stop you. If he forcefully attacks, I'll let him know that even though we're both in the initial stage of the Transcendence realm, there's still a huge difference between us. As Jing Nan spoke, he lifted his right hand and waved it at Mo Sang. Instantly, a small bottle flew towards Mo Sang. There are 3 drops of Berserker blood in there. The extra drop is my gift to Su Ming for our first meeting. Jing Nan cast a profound look at Mo Sang, then turned around and took a step towards the sky. He still had to help Yi Wang organize his Berserker blood that night. Mo Sang watched Jing Nan leave, then looked at the bottle containing the 3 drops of Berserker blood. A contemplative look appeared in his eyes. Jing Nan's words were mostly correct, but there was one thing he was wrong about. Mo Sang did not expect that Su Ming would be able to reach such a rank. His original plan was to use the mystery of Su Ming's identity to make Jing Nan suspicious and make guesses. Then, he would pay a huge price to make Jing Nan agree to let Su Ming stay in Windstream. After all, he understood that Windstream Tribe was determined to walk out of this place and become stronger. They would not give up on any chance, even if it was just a guess. Yet Mo Sang did not expect that Su Ming would be able to reach such a rank. Because of that, his conversation with Jing Nan immediately turned from passive to active. The difference of one word was huge. Perhaps this time, the disaster facing Dark Mountain Tribe isn't impossible to solve. A glint appeared in Mo Sang's eyes, and he walked towards the people from Dark Mountain Tribe who were waiting in the distance. In the sky beyond Windstream Mountain, Shihai brought Su Ming with him as he charged towards the Mudstone City. Both of them did not say a single word as they flew in the air. Su Ming was silent. Shihai was filled with mixed feelings. He would occasionally look at Su Ming. This was a normal person who he had personally brought to the field. He originally did not pay any attention to him. Yet now, after witnessing Su Ming's unbelievable rise in power over the past few days, Shihai's attitude was forcefully changed. This is a prodigy who can compare to Yi Wang, Shihai thought in his heart. Before long, the outline of Windstream Tribe gradually appeared on the land in the distance. The gigantic Mudstone City came into view. At that moment, Su Ming suddenly spoke. His voice seemed to be blown away by the wind, but it still traveled clearly into Sure Hai's ears. Senior, there's something I don't understand. You haven't transcended yet. How can you fly in the sky? If it was before, Sure Hai would definitely have ignored him and acted as if he did not hear him. Yet now, after a moment of hesitation, he slowly opened his mouth to explain. The flight of those in the transcendence realm is different from mine. I can fly in the sky partly because of my berserker vessel and partly because of my berserker mark that has yet to solidify. My berserker mark is a cloud. As Sure Hai spoke, a vague picture of a cloud appeared at the center of his brows. More accurately speaking, those in the transcendence realm can walk in the world with their own strength. As for me, I can only float in the air. It might seem the same, but there's a huge difference between us, Sure Hai explained in detail. A pensive look appeared in Su Ming's eyes. He asked a few more questions. As he spoke with Sure Hai, the two of them returned to the Mudstone City. He put Su Ming down, and a smile appeared on Sure Hai's face. He nodded at Su Ming before he turned into a white cloud and left. The giant field at the foot of Windstream Mountain was now empty. There were only 9 statues, and 8 of them had a person sitting cross-legged on them. They were all the powerful berserkers of Windstream tribe. Before long, Sure Hai returned and sat down on the 9th statue. Since the seal on Windstream Mountain had been activated, it would take some time for it to close. The 9 of them were the guardians of the place. They could only leave once the seal was completely closed. It had always been the same in the past. Yet this year, it was a little strange. A person in black had appeared on the empty field at some point in time. That person wore a black robe that hid his entire body. That person was the mysterious person who had appeared in Black Mountain Tribe. Chapter 73. He stood there, but to everyone's disbelief, Sure Hai and the other 8 people did not seem to have noticed him. They did not know that the mysterious person had appeared and existed. Even if they opened their eyes, they would only see an empty space. One of the 4 mysterious beasts of the Fire Berserker tribe, the Dark Rock, was killed by the god of berserkers a long time ago. I didn't expect to see a divine clone here. If the berserker from Black Mountain Tribe didn't know about it, I would have missed it. Oh well, he might have told me about it for his own sake, but since I saw the beast, I'll fulfill his request. 2 berserkers in the initial stage of the Transcendence Realm are nothing to me. But I've heard of Windstream Tribe, which is located at the edge of the Alliance of the Western region. It seems to have evolved from a weak branch of the great tribe of Man Miao. The mysterious person mumbled and walked forward. The mysterious person mumbled and walked forward. One step at a time, he walked towards Windstream Mountain, which was still in a sealed state. Su Ming returned to the lodgings of Dark Mountain Tribe in Windstream City. He had long since returned to his original frail and delicate appearance. He wore a simple bee skin and sat down in the lodgings of Dark Mountain Tribe. There was excitement and nervousness in his eyes. Everything that happened during the first stage of the test was like a dream to him. It was as if he was not himself, but someone else. It was especially so when he returned to the field from the mountain and became the center of attention. It made his heart race. When he remembered what he had said to Bai Ling in front of Si Kong and the old woman, Su Ming felt proud of himself. He took a deep breath and calmed down his excited heart with great difficulty. He closed his eyes and sensed the vast amount of qi in his body. The explosive power from all 160 blood veins filled Su Ming with confidence. At the last moment, 4 more blood veins appeared in his veins, increasing them from 156 to 160. I'm now at the 6th level of the blood solidification realm. I'm not too far away from the 243 blood veins required to reach the 7th level. Su Ming mumbled. There was a strange look in his eyes. I can train dark blood dust now. I'll have to wait for the powerful execution of 3 evils. Su Ming sat there with rapt attention. He recalled the entire process of the first stage, and a smile gradually appeared on his lips. The most important thing is that I've mastered fine control. When I move, my qi will move. If I don't move, my qi will be hidden. That way, I won't waste a single bit of qi. Not only will I become stronger, my speed will also reach another level. Su Ming took a deep breath and became excited. Now, with the addition of the blood scales, I should be able to help the elder protect the tribe and protect my people. I will fight for the tribe. Su Ming clenches fists. It's a pity my power isn't high enough. I only have 160 blood veins. If only I could increase it. Su Ming frowned. After a moment of silence, a glint appeared in his eyes. I need to buy a large amount of herbs and create more mountain spirit. It's a pity. Ah! The light in Su Ming's eyes dimmed. His pockets were empty. He did not have much money to buy anything. Now that the tribe is in danger, there are a lot of things that require stone coins. I can't add to the elder's burden. I need to think about how I can get a lot of money. Su Ming scratched his head. As he was deep in thought, his ears twitched. He heard Wu La's excited voice coming from outside the house. Su Ming stood up and pushed the door open. He saw Bei Ling, Wu La, and Lei Chen walking towards him. Behind them were the elder, the head of the guards, and Shan Hen. Mo Su is too imposing. You saw it. The moment he came back, he immediately attracted everyone's attention, and Yuan even took the initiative to talk to him. I heard from others that this is something that rarely happens. Wu La's face was filled with excitement. Her eyes were filled with excitement as she talked to Bei Ling and Lei Chen as she walked towards them. Mo Su may not look like much, but he's very attractive. I think powerful berserkers should be like this. He rose to the top from the last place. He was especially calm when he came back. He has the presence of a powerful berserker. I still remember his conversation with Yi Wang. He said that he won't participate in the second stage. That shocked so many people. Wu La gestured with her hands excitedly. It was clear that Mo Su's position in her heart was very high. She admired him a lot. Su Ming stood outside the house and looked at the people walking towards him. When he saw Wu La's excitement, he could not help but touch his nose. He remembered how nervous he had been at that time. The feeling of being the center of attention was something he was not used to. He did not seem as relaxed as Wu La had described him to be. Mo Su used to be a nobody, but now he's famous. His name has spread through the entire Windstream tribe. Before long, all the tribes around here will know about him. Bei Ling's face was no longer cold, which was a rare sight. His eyes were filled with excitement and excitement. It's a pity he's not a member of Dark Mountain Tribe. Ah, if only Dark Mountain Tribe had such a prodigy. Bei Ling sighed. There was not a hint of jealousy in his heart. That was how people were. They would always compare themselves to those who were about the same level as them. Once they surpassed themselves by too much, it would be difficult for them to be jealous, unless those who grew up with them were no longer mysterious. They would also be jealous. That's right. If only he was a member of Dark Mountain Tribe. Mo Su. Mo Su. Just listen to that name. Mo Su. There was a hint of surprise in Wu La's eyes. Her cheeks turned slightly red. As she mumbled, she suddenly saw Su Ming standing there. She frowned and a scornful look appeared on her face. She remembered Lei Chen's words. He actually suspected that the Mo Su she admired was the same person as Su Ming. This made her feel that it was an insult to Mo Su. Lei Chen did not speak along the way. When he saw Su Ming, his eyes immediately focused. He looked at him carefully and his eyes became dull. It was clear that he did not think that there was any connection between Su Ming and Mo Su. As for Bei Ling, he had seen Su Ming standing there a long time ago. He completely ignored Su Ming's existence. The aloofness in his eyes was so strong that it would not disappear in the slightest. Mo Su is extremely mysterious. We still don't know which tribe he belongs to. Perhaps we'll find out in a few days. At that time, we'll represent our peers in Dark Mountain Tribe to get to know him. Bei Ling no longer looked at Su Ming. When he mentioned Mo Su, respect appeared in his eyes. Yes, we must get to know Mo Su. Mo Su. I'm guessing that his power must be really high. It's a pity that he didn't join the second and third stage of the test. Su Ming saw Wu La's excited expression and could not help but touch his nose again. Perhaps his power isn't that high. That's why he didn't join. Su Ming could not help but mumble under his breath. Su Ming, what did you say? When Wu La heard his words, a fierce look immediately appeared in her eyes. She looked at Su Ming, and anger appeared on her face. You don't have the right to judge Mo Su. His power must be really high. He didn't join because he has other things to do. It's because he doesn't want to compete. Su Ming laughed bitterly and quickly stopped talking. When he saw Wu La's anger, he did not know whether he should be happy or resigned. Su Ming, it's fine if you say these words here, but since you said these words, then you must have heard about Mo Su from somewhere else. Let me tell you, once you leave this place, don't ever say these words to anyone else. It'll bring trouble to the tribe. That Mo Su is not someone we can judge like this. Bei Ling's face was stern as he stared at Su Ming and spoke slowly. As the strongest among his peers in Dark Mountain Tribe, it was not out of line for him to say such things. Su Ming, I don't think we should say that either. That Mo Su, you didn't see him with your own eyes. He's too strong. Even Yi Wang has to take him seriously. This person is not someone we can talk about. Is really strong. Lei Chen also spoke in a low voice. Once he finished speaking, he hesitated for a moment and looked at Su Ming with a complicated expression. He looked as if he wanted to say something else, but in the end he did not. Su Ming laughed bitterly once again. All right, the three of you still have to compete tomorrow. Go train and rest. The head of the guards frowned. Once he gave the order, Bei Ling and the other two quickly stopped talking and returned to their houses. Mo Sang nodded at Su Ming. The praise in his eyes was very strong. He did not say anything and walked back to his house. The head of the guards and Shan Hen followed closely behind him. It was clear that they had something to discuss. Once the crowd dispersed, Su Ming returned to the house. He knew that the elder would most likely come later. That was why he sat in the house and waited quietly. Before long, the elder did not come. Instead, it was Lei Chun who came to Su Ming's house hesitantly. He sat across from Su Ming and looked at him blankly. What's wrong? Su Ming looked at Lei Chen's honest face and smiled. No, it's nothing. Su Ming, are you? In the midst of his hesitation, Lei Chun gritted his teeth and asked in a low voice, Do you like Bai Ling? Su Ming was stunned. Su Ming, I don't care whether you like her or not. I'd advise you to give up. I'm confused. Is Bai Ling really that pretty? She's not as pretty as Bai Fong. Lei Chen mumbled with a puzzled look on his face. Su Ming, you didn't go to the field at the foot of Windstream Mountain. You didn't see Mo Su walking towards Bai Ling right in front of everyone and talking about walking in circles. Circles my foot. I just don't like him. Lei Chen quickly looked at Su Ming's expression and quickly spoke. The most despicable thing is that Bai Ling agreed to it with a red face. You didn't see that. She clearly likes Mo Su. That Bai Ling is such a disappointment. Lei Chen said once again. Su Ming's expression was strange. After a moment of hesitation, he spoke in a low voice. Lei Chen, I'll tell you a secret. I'm actually Mo Su. Lei Chen was stunned. He immediately lifted his hand to touch Su Ming's forehead, but Su Ming dodged it. Lei Chen quickly tried to persuade him, but just as he was about to say something else, he heard the elder cough from outside the house. Lei Chen quickly stood up. The door to the house was opened, and the elder walked in with a smile. Lei Chen did not need the elder's orders. He quickly retreated respectfully and cast a glance at Su Ming before leaving the room. However, there was still a hint of worry on his face. Su Ming's words just now had scared him. He thought that Su Ming was agitated. Chapter 74. Once Lei Chen left, only the elder and Su Ming were left in the room. When he saw the elder, Su Ming quickly stood up. He was very nervous. He did not know whether his actions during the first stage of the test were correct. In the midst of his anxiety, a smile appeared on the elder's face. He sat down opposite Su Ming and looked at the frail boy before him. He looked at the youthful look that still remained on his handsome face, and a nostalgic look appeared briefly in his eyes. You've grown up? Come, sit beside me. After a long while, the elder spoke softly. Elder. Su Ming sat down and looked at the wrinkles on the elder's face. They were marks left behind by time, and they exuded an ancient air. You did well in the first stage. The elder smiled and patted Su Ming's head. He brought out a small bottle from his bosom and handed it to Su Ming. There are 3 drops of berserker blood from those in the Transcendence realm in here. Keep it safe. When the time is right, it will be of great help to you. This is all I can do for you. The elder looked at Su Ming, and there was a look in his eyes that Su Ming could not understand at his age. The method to absorb the berserker blood from those in the Transcendence realm is very simple. Use dark blood dust and turn the berserker blood into blood mist. Surround your entire body and slowly absorb it to nourish your blood. But you can only absorb 1 drop at a time. Don't be greedy. You have to do it step by step, or else it will harm your body. The elder looked at Su Ming and warned him sternly. Su Ming looked at the elder. He did not know why, but he had a bad feeling in his heart. It was as if the elder's expression and words made the meaning he did not understand even stronger. Elder, Su Ming instinctively took the bottle containing the berserker blood. He was just about to say something when he saw the elder smiling and shaking his head. He looked at Su Ming with a kind expression. Don't worry. The danger in the tribe can be resolved. I've already discussed it with the elder of Windstream tribe. There shouldn't be any accidents. What you need to do is to train properly. If one day you reach the Transcendence realm, you can leave this place and go to the world outside. Remember to go to Berserker's Realm Mountain, the elder said slowly. Berserker's Realm Mountain? Where is it? Su Ming was stunned. He had a feeling that this matter was related to his past, but the elder's sudden words made the bad feeling in his heart grow stronger. It turned into uneasiness and nervousness, replacing the shock and confusion that should have appeared in his heart. In your heart, the elder looked at Su Ming and spoke slowly. Su Ming was momentarily stunned. He did not understand. All right, you just need to remember this. Let's not talk about this anymore. I've come to an agreement with the elder of Windstream tribe. You can use Mo Su's identity to stay in Windstream tribe. Windstream tribe will train you and Yi Wang together. This will be very beneficial to you. It will give you more help than I can give you. The chances of you reaching transcendence will be higher. The elder's expression was grave as he looked at Su Ming. When he saw the hesitation on Su Ming's face, as if he was about to speak, the elder's expression became stern. But, elder, I don't want to stay in Windstream tribe. The elder's words were too sudden, causing Su Ming to be completely unprepared. He did not expect things to turn out this way either. If he had known that the results of the first stage of the test would turn out this way, he would definitely not have fought for such a high rank. Before he could even finish speaking in his anxiety, he saw a fierce look appear in the elder's eyes. Su Ming, I've already made my decision. You must stay here from now on, the elder said sternly. Su Ming was silent, but the stubbornness in his eyes was unmistakable. When he saw the stubbornness in Su Ming's eyes, the elder sighed and his expression softened. He looked at Su Ming and spoke slowly. Su Ming, Dark Mountain Tribe is not far from Windstream Tribe. You can go back whenever you want. Su Ming bit his lip. He did not know what to say. Besides, I've already made my decision. Dark Mountain Tribe will join Windstream Tribe and leave Dark Mountain Tribe. We will build a new tribe outside the Mudstone City. In truth, you're very close to Windstream Tribe. The elder continued speaking. But elder, I don't want to become a member of Windstream Tribe. I belong to Dark Mountain Tribe. Su Ming hesitated for a moment before he spoke in a low voice. The elder looked at Su Ming quietly. After a long while, he spoke again. Su Ming, I want you to stay in Windstream Tribe. It's not just for your own good. There's another reason why I want you to stay in Windstream Tribe. Once your status increases and your power increases, just like Yi Wang, you can also take care of Dark Mountain Tribe. Don't you want to take care of Dark Mountain Tribe? Su Ming was stunned. How about this? We're not in a hurry. Don't think too much about it. Once everything is over and Dark Mountain Tribe migrates here, you can make your decision. At that time, I'll personally send you over. You don't even need to stay in the Mudstone City. You can still stay in Dark Mountain Tribe. Is that fine with you? The elder smiled and patted Su Ming's head. Su Ming let out a sigh of relief. After thinking about it, he nodded his head obediently. If that was the case, he could accept it. In Su Ming's heart, he only had one tribe, and that was Dark Mountain Tribe. All right, Since you're not going to participate in the next test, then stay in Windstream for the next few days. Familiarize yourself with the environment here. Once Bei Ling and the others are done with the test, we'll go back to the tribe." The elder smiled and stood up. He did not ask Su Ming how he managed to get that rank. Neither did he ask about his understanding towards the 6 numbers. Instead, with a smile on his face, he looked deeply at Su Ming before he turned around and left. Su Ming looked at the elder's back. There was an ancient air to his back. As he gradually walked away, Su Ming felt his heart clench for an unknown reason. When the elder left, and Su Ming was the only one left in the room, he sat there quietly and recalled the elder's words. Worry rose in his heart. "I'm not strong enough yet. I have to become stronger." After a long while, Su Ming gritted his teeth and a resolute look appeared on his face. He might not be able to understand the meaning behind the elder's gaze, but he could feel that things were not as the elder had said. The danger of the tribe could not be resolved so easily. If I want to become stronger, I can't perform the burning of blood within a short period of time. I can only create medicinal pills. I'll need a lot of stone coins. Su Ming frowned. What he lacked the most right now was money. What should I do? I sold scattering dusts once before. I don't know if it attracted anyone's attention, but if I don't sell it anymore, then I won't have any money. But if someone has already noticed this, then I can't sell the pills anymore. Su Ming thought of all the methods he could think of, but in the end he could not think of anything. Oh well, I can only ask the elder for some stone coins. Su Ming sighed. He originally did not want to add to the elder's burden. After all, according to his plan, he would need a lot of stone coins this time. Su Ming stood up and was about to look for the elder when he suddenly stopped. A thought flashed through his mind. Su Ming stood by the door with sparkling eyes. The idea that had appeared in his head became clearer. After a while, Su Ming sat down once again and thought about it carefully for a long time before he took out a small bottle from his bosom. There were threads of light surrounding the bottle. Inside the bottle was the green blood he had snatched from Wu's senator. He used moonlight threads to wrap around it so that not a single hint of its presence could be detected. As he held the small bottle, his eyes gradually brightened. He had thought about the idea in his head many times, and gradually, an idea formed in his head. This item must be very important to Wu's son. Besides, I heard from Bei Ling that Wu's son is as famous as Chun Chong in Windstream Tribe and is only below Yi Wang. This sort of person would always be in the top 3 in the previous tests, but this time, he's only ranked 12th. Even if Bai Su's appearance caused him to be unable to get into the top 3, he would definitely not fall out of the top 10. Now that this happened, there's only one explanation. This person has become weaker. Something must have happened to him because he's weak, or else he wouldn't have performed this way during the test. He wouldn't have hidden his strength during the test either. Besides, with his status, there's no need for him to do so. Su Ming mumbled as he analyzed the situation in his head. If that's the case, then there's a 50% chance that he lost this item. Su Ming's eyes shone brightly. He looked at the small bottle in his hands, and a smile slowly appeared on his lips. As the prodigy of Windstream Tribe, Wu's son must have a lot of money. The smile on Su Ming's face grew brighter. But just what is this item? Why is it so important to him? Su Ming fell into a moment of silence. He did not act rashly immediately. Instead, he sat down cross-legged and adjusted his breathing quietly. Time passed by. When the sky outside darkened completely and the moon hung high in the sky, Su Ming opened his eyes abruptly. Now I can study it. Su Ming no longer hesitated. He picked up the small bottle and waved his left hand over it. Immediately, the moonlight threads on the small bottle scattered. Su Ming brought the small bottle closer and removed the stopper before looking at it carefully. The green blood in the small bottle was slightly dull. It was as if it had lost its color and spirit due to not returning to Wu Sen's body for a long time. I need to see whether this item is useful to me. If it's not, then I can proceed to the next step. Su Ming did not hesitate and poured out the blood in the bottle. The blood floated before him. There was no bloody scent coming from it. It was as if it was not blood. Su Ming stared at the item and grabbed it, placing it slowly at the center of his brows. Chapter 75. The moment the green blood touched the center of his brows, Su Ming immediately felt a strong presence. That presence was filled with death. It was as if there were countless wails echoing in his heart. At that moment, the green blood seemed to have gained intelligence and wanted to break free from Su Ming's hands. It wanted to rush into the center of Su Ming's brows and into his body. Su Ming focused his gaze. He circulated his qi and immediately chased away the presence of death. At the same time, he also blocked the green blood that wanted to enter his body. He held the ball of blood in his right hand and lifted it from the center of his brows. The moment it left his body, a strange light appeared in Su Ming's eyes. This item should have been formed by practicing a unique berserker art. It's important to those who practice that art, but to others, it'll cause harm to them. Su Ming fell silent for a moment before he made his decision. His original guess that Wu Sen's weakness was due to losing the blood of corpses had increased from 50% to 30%. It might not be 100%, but 80% was enough. In truth, his judgment was accurate. If he forcefully absorbed the blood of corpses, it would cause him great harm. Even if there were some benefits to it, it would not be worth it once he weighed the pros and cons. He placed the blood back into the bottle and waved his right hand at the bottle. Immediately, a ray of moonlight appeared and turned into threads that surrounded the bottle. Su Ming put the bottle away in his bosom, stood up, and walked out of the room. The moon was in the sky. The shape of the moon was not curved, but slightly round. It looked as if there would be a real full moon in the next few days. Su Ming took a deep breath and once again went through the thoughts that had appeared in his head. A glint appeared in his eyes, and he walked out of the house in the middle of the night. It was quiet all around him. There was not a single sound. The moment he walked out of Dark Mountain Tribe's lodgings in Windstream City, Su Ming's heart suddenly leapt. At that moment, a cold voice came from behind him. "It's so late. Where are you going?" Su Ming stopped and turned around. He saw a man walking towards him from the dark corner of the door. His face was normal, but there was a cold glint in his narrowed eyes. It was Dark Mountain Tribe Shanhen. "Greetings, Chief of the Hunters." Su Ming's expression did not change as he looked at Shanhen walking towards him. "I'm asking you a question." Shanhen walked out slowly and stood 10 feet away from Su Ming, staring at him coldly. "I heard from Big Brother Beiling that Windstream City is very lively at night. That's why I want to go and take a look." Su Ming was alarmed, but his face was filled with anxiety as he quickly spoke. Shanhen looked at Su Ming for a long time before nodding his head slowly. "It's not safe at night. Remember not to cause trouble and come back early." Shanhen said slowly. As the leader of the hunting party in the tribe, he was also a powerful warrior who came with the elder. Protecting the tribesmen in the tribe was his responsibility. Therefore, what he said was very normal. Su Ming obeyed. Once he bowed toward Shanhen, he retreated slowly and turned around to walk into the distance. He could feel that Shanhen was still watching him from behind. He had only taken a few steps when all the hairs on Su Ming's body suddenly stood up. He could clearly feel a strong pressure coming towards him. It turned into a sense of danger and locked onto his body. The qi in his body also started circulating on its own to fight back against the pressure. Su Ming knew that this was an instinctive reaction of a berserker. Due to the presence of qi in their bodies, it was difficult for them to hide their qi when they were suddenly stimulated. They would naturally fight back against it. If it was a normal tribe member, this feeling would not be so strong. Only berserkers would be able to feel it so clearly. This was also a method to test whether someone was hiding their power. However, it was only effective when powerful berserkers in the higher ranks of the blood solidification realm fought against those who were weaker than them. Shanhen's level of cultivation was much higher than Su Ming's. That was why Su Ming would not have been able to resist his sudden actions before the test. However, it would not have caught anyone's attention. He had the Elder's concealment art. Even if the qi in his body was activated, no one would be able to notice it. Yet now, Su Ming could already control all the qi in his body through fine control with his mind. He did not hesitate. The moment the qi in his body was about to be triggered, he calmly circulated his qi with a single thought. This was something that would be difficult for other people to do, but for Su Ming, who had understood fine control with his mind. It was not difficult. However, while he could hide his chi and not move it, the instinctive actions of the body, when it was suddenly in danger, would often become the focus of other people's attention. That was what Shan Hin had been observing. However, he had underestimated Su Ming. Perhaps it would be more accurate to say that he had not paid much attention to Su Ming over the years. He did not understand Su Ming. Almost at the instant that sense of danger arrived, Su Ming did not stop for even a single moment. It was as if he was completely unaware of it. He walked forward at a moderate pace and gradually disappeared into the night. When Su Ming disappeared into the distance, Shan Hin slowly frowned. He did not continue standing there. Instead, he turned around and returned to his lodgings in the tribe. His actions were not out of line. In fact, he did it right in front of the elders, so no one would think that he was doing it with ulterior motives. Instead, it seemed like he was doing it in an open and above-board manner. It would make people think that he had his suspicions, and that was why he was testing him. Su Ming maintained his calm pace until he was far into the distance. Then, he could not help but run a few steps faster. His heart pounded against his chest. During that instant, when Shan Hin was looking at him, he found the vague and mysterious observer who had appeared when he meditated for the past few days. "It's him." Su Ming frowned. He remembered the elder mentioning that there was a traitor in the tribe. The elder might not have mentioned it in detail, but Su Ming could tell that he was worried. "Is it him?" Su Ming hesitated. The position of the chief of the hunters was very high. He held a lot of power in the tribe. He controlled all the berserkers in the hunting team and even had the great responsibility of capturing beasts for the tribe. Besides, in Su Ming's memories, Shan Hin had done a lot for the tribe over the years. He might have seemed cold and aloof, but in truth, Su Ming had seen him walking around the tribe with a cold demeanor. He would often give some of the prey he hunted to the older members of the tribe. He had once gone up the mountain personally and brought back a lot of beast teeth because the children in the tribe liked them. Even though he was still cold when he gave them to the Lassus, Su Ming noticed a hint of kindness in his eyes. In Su Ming's memories, there was one winter when a few members of the hunting team were ambushed by the people from Black Mountain Tribe. They escaped with heavy injuries and one of them died. At that time, Shan Hin walked out alone with a cold expression on his face. When he came back the next day, he held the heads of 3 berserkers from Black Mountain Tribe in his hands. If it were not for the elder's strength at that time, a war might have broken out between the tribe and Black Mountain Tribe. The scenes of the past flashed through Su Ming's mind. He could not find any reason why Shan Hin would be a traitor. To him, there was no way a chief of the hunters would betray the tribe. Perhaps I'm thinking too much. Su Ming let out a sigh of relief in his silence. He walked forward quietly. Gradually his face changed. His body became stronger, and his clothes also changed. Very soon, when he walked out of the darkness, Su Ming turned into the famous and mysterious Mo Su of Windstream City. With a single move, he charged towards the deeper parts of Windstream City with a shocking speed. It was easy to find Wu Sen's house. Once Su Ming turned into Mo Su, he only needed to ask around and he would know where it was. Besides, even though he was famous in Windstream City, there were only a few hundred people who had seen him before. That was why he did not catch anyone's attention. The Windstream tribe member who told Su Ming where Wu's son lived also did not know that the person before him was Su Ming, the one who shocked the world with a single feat. The reason why he told Su Ming where Wu Sen lived was because Su Ming had taken out one of the few stone coins he had. Besides, the Windstream tribe member was already used to it. During this period of time, he knew that there were a lot of people from other tribes who would fight to be the first to visit the prodigies of Windstream. However, even though there were a lot of people who came to visit, there were not many who were actually summoned. Wu Sen's house was located in a corner on the eastern side of the Mudstone City. It was very quiet there, especially at night when it was completely dark. There might be lights, but they were few and scattered. Only with the help of the moonlight could the outlines of the houses be seen. Among the many mudstone houses, there was one house that took up a lot of space. It also had its own courtyard, which was clearly different from the other houses. That was Wu Sen's house. As one of the prodigies of Windstream tribe, Wu Sen's status was very high. It was only natural that his house was different. There were 4 rooms in his courtyard, and in the middle of the night, there was a gloomy atmosphere in the silence. The courtyard was big, but empty. Under the moonlight, it was as if there was a bleak and deathly stillness. The 4 houses were all dark, as if there was no one inside. In the past, this was not the case. There would be Wu Sen's followers guarding the house at all times to show how unique and special Wu Sen was. Yet now, there was no one around. Su Ming did not know whether it was because Wu Sen's ranking had fallen and those people had left, or because he did not want others to notice his weakness and chase them all away. Su Ming stood hundreds of feet away from the courtyard. In the silence, his shadow was stretched out by the moonlight and gradually blended into the darkness around him. Su Ming looked at the courtyard before him and fell silent for a moment before he slowly walked forward. When he got close to the door to the courtyard, he pushed it open without any hesitation. The moment the wooden door was pushed open, a creaking sound broke the silence and spread out in all directions. Yet the 4 houses in the courtyard remained quiet, as if they did not notice anything. It was as if there was really no one inside. Yet when Su Ming was outside, he could feel a presence of qi in the second house. From the strength of that qi, Su Ming could tell that it was around the 5th level of the blood solidification realm. It was slightly weaker than when he had looked at Wu Sen during the day, but when he remembered that Wu Sen's weakness should have lasted for a long time, he understood. Chapter 76. As he stood in the empty courtyard, Su Ming's gaze fell on the tightly shut door of the second house. He walked towards the door without any hesitation and pushed it open. The instant the door was pushed open, Su Ming heard a muffled growl. Soon after, a green figure lifted his arms and charged towards him. A presence that exuded a murderous aura of death came crashing into his face. A glint appeared in Su Ming's eyes, but his expression remained the same. He had dared to destroy this person's plans when his level of cultivation was not as high as this person's. Now that his level of cultivation was much higher than this person's, and the person was still weakened. It was nighttime as well. There was no way Su Ming would be afraid. The moment the green figure closed in, Su Ming lifted his right foot and stomped on the ground. The 160 blood veins on his body erupted forth and turned into a strong pressure. He did not retreat. With that pressure alone, he forced his way towards the green figure. The green figure was shaken by Su Ming's qi and collapsed. It turned into green sparkles that spread out, causing the originally dark room to be illuminated by the green light. Wu Sen's hair was a mess, and his face was pale. He sat cross-legged in the house and glared at Su Ming. Blood trickled down from the corner of his mouth. It was clear that the moment Su Ming closed in, he had forcefully cast a berserker art. Yet this art could not do anything to Su Ming. Instead, when the berserker art was broken, Wu Sen was injured. "Mo Su." Wu Sen's eyes were filled with unwillingness and madness as he growled. Su Ming's expression was calm. He did not mind Wu Sen's madness. He walked into the house and looked at Wu Sen coldly when he was a few dozen feet away from him. "Looks like you're really weak. Even the followers who provided you with the blood at the center of your brows are nowhere to be seen," Su Ming said slowly. His voice was neither fast nor slow. Veins popped up on Wu Sen's face. There was also anguish on his face. When he heard the sound of the door opening, he was immediately shocked. He could only hear the sound, but he could not feel any presence of qi. It was as if the door had opened on its own without anyone pushing it. However, he felt a clear sense of danger, especially when the door to the house he was in was pushed open. That feeling instantly reached its peak, and only then did he cast his berserker art without caring about anything else. However, his berserker art failed. Just as he was about to rush out of the house, he saw the face of the person outside the door. After he saw who it was, he gave up on rushing out, because the person who had arrived was Mo Su. It was the Mo Su that he was extremely suspicious of, but did not dare to provoke. Being on the same level, as Yuang had allowed him to personally witness what it meant to amaze the world with a single brilliant feat. Facing such a blazing sun, Wu Sen could only feel bitter. However, Wu Sun was not stupid. On the contrary, he was extremely intelligent. He could vaguely guess the purpose of the other party's visit, but he did not dare to believe it. You stole my corpse, chi, origin blood, causing me to weaken at every moment. With my status and the pressure I've exerted on them in the past, once they find out that I'm weak, it won't do me any good. Wu Sun closed his eyes and took a deep breath. When he opened his eyes once again, the veins on his face had disappeared, and his expression had returned to normal. When Su Ming saw how Wu Sun recovered so quickly and how he no longer had the anger and unwillingness to admit defeat, how he did not hide anything in his words, and how he spoke about how weak he was, it made Su Ming admire this person slightly. I have offended you greatly regarding what happened before. I hope you won't mind, Brother Mo. As Wu Sun spoke, he stood up and bowed toward Su Ming. Su Ming's expression remained the same, but his impression of Wu Sun had become much deeper. He looked at Wu Sun, and Wu Sun looked back at him. The two of them stared at each other for a long time before Su Ming suddenly smiled. It has saved me a lot of trouble when I'm dealing with smart people. Name your price. Wu Sun forced down his excitement. He had long since lost the desire to cause trouble for Su Ming. In his mind, he no longer had the right to do so. His level of cultivation was not as high as Su Ming's, and his reputation was also not as great. Based on his analysis, there was a high possibility that Su Ming would soon be taken in by the Elder and be trained in Windstream Tribe. He did not want to continue being enemies with this sort of person. His only hope now was to retrieve his blood of corpses so that he could recover his power as soon as possible. After all, the second stage of the test would be tomorrow. This was incredibly important to him. Brother Mo, what do you want? I only have one Berserker vessel, but it's a gift from the Elder to my Berserker art. I can't use it to trade. Wu Sun hesitated for a moment before he spoke. To him, the blood of corpses was much more important than the Berserker vessel, but he did not dare use it to trade. After all Berserker vessels belong to the tribe, not to him. I don't want a Berserker vessel. Let's trade with stone coins. 5,000 stone coins, and I'll give this to you. As Su Ming spoke, he took out the small bottle from his bosom. The moonlight threads on the bottle disappeared the moment he touched it. No one saw it. Wu Sun's heart pounded against his chest as he stared at the small bottle. Yet when he heard Su Ming's words, he smiled bitterly. Brother Mo, I only have 3,000 stone coins. Su Ming did not speak. He only looked at Wu Sun quietly. After a while, he placed the small bottle back into his bosom without a word and spoke slowly. If that's the case, then you can come and find me when you have enough stone coins. Wu Sun immediately became anxious. If he could get his hands on the blood of corpses tonight, then he would still have hope the next day. If he could not get it today, then his chances in the second stage would plummet. Besides, he did not know how to find this mysterious Mo Su. If he left, then even if he had enough stone coins, it would still be difficult for him to get his blood of corpses back. Wait, Brother Mo, what do you think? Wait here for a while. I'll go gather the stone coins now. I'll definitely come back in at most 2 hours. Can you wait for me for 2 hours? Wu Sun quickly said. Su Ming frowned. He cast a glance at Wu Sun, then ignored him and turned around to leave. It was impossible for him to wait here like an idiot. It did not matter whether Wu Sun had other thoughts or not. Su Ming would still be cautious. Brother Mo, wait. I really only have 3,300 stone coins. How about this? I'll add this as well. What do you think? Wu Sun panicked. He quickly took a few steps forward, then gritted his teeth and brought out a wooden box from a corner of the house. He was reluctant to part with the box right before Su Ming's eyes. He opened the box and saw a purple 7-leaf grass in the wooden box. The leaves were very strange. Each leaf had 7 branches, and they were arranged in an orderly fashion. At first glance, it was hard not to feel that the leaves were in a mess. This 7 hearts grass is incredibly rare. I obtained it by accident. It's worth thousands of stone coins. Wu Sun looked at Su Ming and handed the item over. The moment Su Ming saw the herb, his heart immediately raced. Once he took it over, he looked at it carefully and was certain that it was one of the two herbs he had never seen before in the creation of South Asunder. Without batting an eyelid, Su Ming closed the wooden box and looked at Wu Sun as if he was hesitating. Wu Sun was incredibly nervous. After a long while, when he saw Su Ming nod his head, he could not hide the excitement on his face. He quickly brought out enough white stone coins that were worth 100 stone coins and placed them into a bag before handing it over to Su Ming respectfully. Su Ming checked it. Once he was certain that there were no mistakes, he brought out the small bottle and handed it over to Wu Sr. Your blood of corpses is very valuable. Don't lose it again. Su Ming looked at him profoundly before he turned around and walked out of the room. He sank into the moonlight and disappeared into the darkness. Wu Sun held onto the small bottle and watched Su Ming leave. His expression kept changing. After a long while, he let out a long sigh and completely gave up on the idea of causing trouble for Su Ming. In the lodgings of Dark Mountain Tribe, Su Ming looked at the 30-something white stone coins in his hands. He was filled with excitement. He had never had so much money before. As he looked at the stone coins that were glowing with a white light, Su Ming could not help but pick them up one by one and look at them continuously. The feeling of obtaining such a large amount of money was almost the same as when he was the center of attention. His pockets were almost empty, but now he had so many stone coins. It made Su Ming feel as if he was rich. After all, this was the most money he had right now. If Lei Chen knew that I had so many stone coins, he would definitely be dumbfounded and in disbelief. A hint of pride appeared on Su Ming's face. More importantly, he felt as if he had obtained this large amount of money for free. He did not have to pay too much for it. This was completely different from the time he sold a scattering dust for 100 stone coins. Wu Sun is still rich. As the prodigy of Windstream Tribe, it's understandable that he would have so much money. But after the trade with me, he probably won't have much left. Su Ming did not believe that Wu Sun only had so many stone coins, but he believed that there should not be much left. Su Ming had already thought about the consequences. First of all, his level of cultivation had to be higher than Wu Sun's. That way, even if he ran into Mo Su during the day, it would not be a problem. More importantly, Wu Sun did not know that Mo Su was Su Ming, so he would not be able to find him. If that was the case, then as long as Su Ming's identity was not exposed, he would be safe. Also, whether Wu Sun would dare to cause trouble for him was a problem. There was even a possibility that Wu Sun would endure it and not provoke him. After all, Wu Sun was not an idiot. He knew when to advance and when to retreat. Chapter 77. As for his status as the prodigy of Windstream Tribe, it was no longer of any use to Su Ming. After some deliberation, Su Ming boldly went to look for Wu Sr. Tomorrow morning, when the second stage of the test begins, I'll go and get enough herbs while most of the people in Windstream Tribe are focused on the test, Su Ming thought to himself. He put away all the stone coins. He did not feel that they were heavy. He put them all away in his bosom. Even if his bosom was bulging, the satisfaction he felt in his heart made him not care about it. Once he was done putting away the stone coins, Su Ming took out the small wooden box. He opened it and looked at the 7-leaf herb inside. His eyes shone brightly. To him, this item was as important as the stone coins. He did not expect to get this item from Wu Senator. This was one of the two herbs he had never seen before among the herbs he needed to create South Asunder. So it's called 7-leaf herb. It's a pity I don't have the other herb, or else I could try creating South Asunder. I wonder how effective it will be compared to Mountain Spirit. Su Ming looked at it a few more times before putting it away. Anyone could tell that he was hiding a lot of things in his bosom. However, Su Ming could not do anything about it. He had too many things and could only bring them along with him. Once he was done, Su Ming sat down cross-legged and closed his eyes. He did not circulate the qi in his body to train. Instead, the berserker art for dark blood dust appeared in his head, and he tried to practice it. This was the second berserker art he could practice. Compared to spirit addiction, this berserker art was much more lethal and did not have to be complicated. Time passed by slowly. The night passed by without a single word. When the first rays of sunlight fell from the sky, the entire Windstream city seemed to have woken up from its slumber. The sound of the people in the city slowly rose and echoed in all directions. Today was also a grand ceremony. It was the second stage of the test. This stage was not a test of potential. It was a test of strength and speed, which was related to a person's level of cultivation. The location of the test was also not Windstream City, but the giant field with the 9 statues at the foot of Windstream Mountain. The moment morning arrived, the people from the tribes living in Windstream City left one after another and headed towards the field. Dark Mountain Tribe was no exception. Under the lead of the head of the guards and Shan Hen, they brought Bei Ling, Lei Chun, and Wu La out of their lodgings, but the elder was not among them. When the crowd left and Su Ming walked out of his room, he still did not see the elder. Su Ming did not know where the elder had gone, but after thinking about it, he did not bother himself with it. In his mind, the elder should be with the elder of Windstream Tribe. Once he walked out of his house, Su Ming did not change his appearance. He realized that the berserker vessel the elder had given him could not be changed at will. He could only maintain the appearance of Mo Su and the one he had when he snatched the blood of corpses from Wu Sin that night. As for the third form, even if it could be conjured, there would always be some inconsistencies. Clearly, this item had its limits. That was why he decided not to change his appearance. Instead, he walked around the Mudstone City with his own appearance. However, he had made some preparations. He bought a few bee skin robes and wrapped them around his body. He also covered his head and face, revealing only his eyes. His appearance may have been a little strange, but there were quite a number of people in the Mudstone City who dressed up like this. It was clear that they did not want their faces to be remembered when they were trading. As he walked through Windstream City, he noticed that there were fewer people in the city. Most of them had gone to the field to watch the second stage of the test. Since there were fewer people in the city, there were not many people on the streets. Even the stalls that were used for trading were mostly empty. Su Ming walked down the street with a clear goal in mind. He may not have completely familiarized himself with Windstream City over the past few days, but he had long since known the locations of the stalls that were used for trading. There were especially a few shops that specialized in selling herbs. They were the main focus of Su Ming's trip. There was one shop right before him. It did not have a name and was only a small shop. There was only one member of Windstream Tribe inside. He was lying on the table and yawning. When he saw Su Ming coming in, he cast a glance at him and quickly stood up. Without waiting for the person to speak, Su Ming spoke slowly with a hoarse voice. "I want 100 cloud gauze grass." As Su Ming spoke, he placed his right hand that was hidden in his sleeve gently on the table. Immediately, a white stone coin appeared. The eyes of the member of Windstream Tribe immediately brightened. He was already used to customers like Su Ming. He knew that these people did not want others to figure out their identities and did not need him to introduce them to them. Their goal was clear. Without any hesitation, the member of Windstream Tribe immediately nodded his head and went to the back of the shop. Not long after, he brought out a leather bag and placed it before Su Ming. Su Ming opened the bag and looked at it. It was filled with cloud gauze grass. There should be around 100 of them. It was not easy to buy these herbs in the outside world, and it was rare for them to have such a large amount of them. However, they were commonly seen in the Mudstone City. With the belt in hand, Su Ming turned around and left the shop. Using the same method, he went to a dozen-something shops and bought a lot of cloud gauze grass from each of them. He also bought quite a lot of other supplementary herbs. He was also cautious and bought some herbs that he did not need. That way, even if someone noticed him, it would be difficult for them to figure out what he was trying to do. In less than half a day, he only had around 1,000 stone coins left. The speed at which he was spending money made Su Ming's heart ache, but he had no other choice. For the first time, he felt that if he did not have enough money to support him in quenching pills, it would be difficult for him to do so. "I have to be thrifty. I'm spending money way too quickly." Su Ming's face was bitter. All the bags on his body were made of leather. There were too many of them. It gave him a headache, but there was nothing he could do. "I'm almost done. I'll go back to my lodgings and put these herbs away. Then I'll walk around the Mudstone City." Su Ming made up his mind and quickly went back to Dark Mountain Tribe's lodgings. He had only taken a few steps when he suddenly stopped. A barely noticeable frown appeared between his brows, but it soon disappeared. His expression remained the same as ever as he continued walking forward. Before him was an old man with a protruding mouth and monkey cheeks. The old man had his head lowered. No one knew what he was thinking about, but there was a pleased look on his face. As he mumbled to himself, his right hand moved in front of his chest, as if he was calculating something. Su Ming walked forward calmly. The moment he walked past the old man, he heard the old man mumbling under his breath. I earned big this time. It's all thanks to Mo Su, or else I'd have lost a lot of money. He's a good person. He's such a good person. Su Ming remained calm. Once he brushed past the old man, he continued moving forward. However, the old man only took a few steps forward before he suddenly turned his head around and looked at Su Ming's back. His eyes sparkled as he looked at the leather bags of various sizes on Su Ming's body. My fellow tribe member, please wait, the old man immediately said. Su Ming frowned and pretended that he did not hear him. Not only did he not stop, he even quickened his pace. My fellow tribe member, please wait. The old man quickly ran over and blocked Su Ming's path. There was a familiar smile on his face, one that Su Ming had seen before. A chilling glint appeared in Su Ming's eyes. He did not speak and was just about to walk around the old man. The old man quickly took a few steps back. The smile on his face did not diminish in the slightest as he quickly spoke. My fellow tribe member, listen to me, just one word. I saw that you bought a lot of things, so you must have gone to a lot of shops. But I have some good things here that even those shops don't have. Su Ming ignored him and continued walking forward. But the old man did not care about his attitude. He continued walking by Su Ming's side and continued babbling. My fellow tribe member, don't be so cold. I really do have good things here. Look at this herb. It might look normal, but you know Mo Su, right? Let me tell you, Mo Su only became famous in the first stage because he ate this herb of mine. As the old man spoke, he brought out a handful of herbs from his bosom and waved them around Su Ming. Su Ming was annoyed by the old man's babbling. The old man seemed to be biting onto him and refused to let go. He kept following him as if he would not buy anything. Su Ming had experienced this a long time ago. Now that he ran into him again, it gave him a headache. My fellow tribe member, you don't believe me? It's fine if you don't believe me. But let me tell you, I have more here. Look at these herbs. They're so colorful and beautiful. But let me tell you, Yuan used this herb at the last moment. And this one, you've heard of Bai Su, right? He was a nobody before this. Do you know why he managed to get to the fourth place? I'm telling you, it's because the old man's bosom was like a bottomless pit. He brought out a lot of different herbs time and time again, as if he was afraid that Su Ming would not buy them. He kept introducing them to Su Ming. It's because he ate your herbs, right? Su Ming felt his ears ringing. He cut off the old man's words and spoke coldly. Chapter 78. You're smart. You're right, it's because of these herbs. I haven't introduced myself. I'm Bei Qiong, and I sell these rare herbs in Windstream Tribe. Let me tell you, Yuang is my good friend. Chun Chong is my customer. Wu Sin often comes here to buy herbs. There's also Mo Su. I'm not lying to you. I really know Mo Su. The old man quickly took out a large amount of herbs and waved them in front of Su Ming. Yuang often buys these. Chun Chong often needs these. Wu Sun needs these for his training. Mo Su ordered these. I can't sell you too many. The old man's hands moved quickly. Every single time he took out a large amount of herbs, his actions dazzling Su Ming's eyes. I'm not interested. If you continue following me, then don't blame me for being rude. A cold glint appeared in Su Ming's eyes. He cast a glance at the old man and walked away quickly. My friend, your back looks familiar. You, I remember now. The old man thought about it. When he saw that Su Ming's face was covered by the beast's skin, it was clear that he did not want others to see him. He had seen many people like this before and knew what they were afraid of the most. An exaggerated expression appeared on his face, as if he had just cried out. Su Ming's footsteps faltered, but he was smart since he was young. With the elders' teachings, there was no way he would be fooled by such a small trick. He laughed coldly in his heart and continued walking forward, ignoring the old man. When the old man saw that his plan had failed, there was no hint of awkwardness on his face. Instead, a fighting spirit appeared on his face. It was as if he would not give up on any chance easily, especially when he saw Su Ming's bags of various sizes. He was certain that this person had a lot of money, so he would not let him go. He quickly ran forward and caught up to Su Ming. Once he did, he changed his words and continued taking out herbs from his bosom. Su Ming was frustrated. He was about to shake off the old man at full speed when he saw the old man taking out a large amount of herbs from his bosom once again. Suddenly, he had a thought. Are these herbs really as amazing as you say? Su Ming stopped and looked at the old man's chest casually as he asked languidly. When the old man heard Su Ming's words, he immediately became excited. He immediately patted his chest and nodded solemnly. Fellow clansmen, don't worry. This old man is honest with neither the old nor the young. I will never lie. This is... Hesitation appeared on Su Ming's face. The old man became even more excited. He quickly took a few steps forward and said in a low voice, "There are too many people here. It's not suitable for trading. Let's go there. It's more remote and suitable for trading my good stuff." As the old man spoke, he put on a vigilant expression. After looking around, he pointed at a remote path not far away. Su Ming hesitated for a moment before he nodded. The old man quickly brought Su Ming to the depths of the secluded path. There was no one around. He suppressed his excitement and said in a low voice, "My friend, which one do you like? It's Yi Wang's, Chin Chong's, or Bai Su's. But my fellow tribesmen, I can't sell you too many of Mo Su's herbs. I didn't get a good look at those herbs just now, so I don't know which ones are good. If they're all good, then I can consider buying some of them." There was still uncertainty on Su Ming's face. He cast the old man a glance and spoke hesitantly. "It doesn't matter. I'll take them out for you to see." The old man immediately became even more excited, and a smile appeared on his face. He immediately took out a variety of herbs from his bosom, 2 or 3 of each. "That's all? That's too little." Su Ming swept his gaze over the herbs and shook his head. "That's quite a lot. These are all rare herbs. It's impossible for you to have more." The old man was momentarily stunned before he quickly explained. Su Ming did not speak. He reached his right hand into his bosom and took out a small bag. He opened it before the old man and revealed about 10 white stone coins inside. The old man stared at the stone coins, and his eyes lit up. He took a deep breath, and his expression turned serious. He looked around once again and took a few steps closer to Su Ming. He spoke in a low voice, "My friend, since you're so sincere, then I'll tell you the truth. I have about 100 of each herb. It's not that they're not valuable, but I have my own ways to get them. I think you really want to buy them. How about this? I'll take them out for you to see." As the old man spoke, he took out handfuls of herbs from his bosom and placed them all on the ground. Before long, there were about 1,000 of them. "That's all I have. All my herbs are here. 1,000 stone coins. Take them all." The old man looked at Su Ming nervously. If he placed all these herbs together, he would need a very big bag. There was no way he could fit all of them in his bosom. Su Ming's heart pounded against his chest. He stared at the old man's chest, and his eyes flashed. "Why did you put all these herbs in your bosom? What do you have in your bosom?" When the old man heard Su Ming's words, he immediately became cautious. He quickly took a few steps back and clutched his chest. There was panic on his face. "Stop pretending. I won't buy these herbs. But if you have a special bag that can store so many herbs, then I'll consider buying one," Su Ming said slowly. "I'm not selling." The old man snorted and immediately said. Su Ming held the bag containing the stone coins and shook it slightly. The sound of the stone coins knocking against each other came from within. The sound was very clear and pleasant to the ears. It made the old man struggle. 5,000 stone coins. Give me 5,000 stone coins, and I'll sell it to you." As the old man spoke, he took out a bag the size of a palm from his bosom. It looked very strange. There was a circular picture drawn on it. It looked like it was drawn on the surface, but when Su Ming took a closer look, he found that it was different. It was as if the picture was not drawn on the surface, but was imprinted with some other method. Unfortunately, there was a broken part at the corner of the cloth bag. This is a treasure. It's rare in Windstream Tribe. There are a lot of things in there. If you don't have 5,000 stone coins, then don't even think about selling it to you, the old man said loudly as he held the cloth bag tightly. A corner of the bag is broken, Su Ming said calmly. Of course, if it was complete, forget 5,000 stone coins. I wouldn't even sell it for 10,000 stone coins, the old man said proudly. 500 stone coins. If you don't want to sell it, then forget it, Su Ming said to the old man after a moment of silence. What? What did you say? 500 stone coins? That's impossible. The old man's expression changed quickly. His face was filled with anger, as if Su Ming's price was a humiliation to him. You said just now that you've been selling herbs in Windstream Tribe for many years. You've also seen many prodigies. I don't believe that no one has noticed anything wrong with you. If you still have a bag like this, then it's clear that you're not the only one. 500 stone coins. If you don't want to sell it, then forget it, Su Ming said calmly. Once he finished speaking, he turned around and was about to leave. The old man stood there with hesitation and struggle on his face. When he saw that Su Ming was really leaving without turning back, as if he was about to walk out of the small alley, the old man stomped on the ground and quickly shouted out. 800 stone coins. Ah, all right, 500 stone coins. I'll give you 500 stone coins. Su Ming stopped moving, turned his head around, and stretched out his right hand. The old man moved forward with great reluctance and handed the bag to Su Ming. Once Su Ming took it, he immediately felt that the bag was as light as a feather. The instant he touched it, a picture appeared in his head. It was a dimension that was 30 feet in size, but only half of it could be used. The other half was showing signs of cracking. You made a fortune. Let me tell you, you just need to tap the bag, and you'll be able to place the item inside. When you take it out, you just need to touch it with your hand. You just need to think about it, and you could take it out, the old man mumbled as he told Su Ming how to use it. Su Ming was curious. He brought out an herb from his body and tested it according to the old man's instructions. When he saw that it worked, he could not help but smile. It's good, isn't it? I have a lot of good stuff with me. You've made a fortune with 500 stone coins. Don't go around telling others. Give me the stone coins. The old man's face was gloomy as he extended his hand to ask for the money. Su Ming did not immediately give him the money. Instead, he asked, Is the bag cracked because it's damaged? I don't know about that. I only have this one anyway. I've been using it for many years, and it's always been like this. Hurry up and give me the money. The old man quickly avoided the topic. Su Ming looked at the old man profoundly and threw the damaged bag back to him. He shook his head. What do you mean? You don't want it anymore? The old man was momentarily stunned. It's just a damaged bag. Even if it has some amazing effects, it's not worth 500 stone coins. More importantly, I believe that before long, the cracks in the bag will slowly spread. Eventually, not only will it be unusable, if we're not careful, we won't even be able to take out the items inside. What's the use of it then? It won't. I've been using it for a few years. It won't. The old man quickly promised. That's not necessarily true. If I buy it, I can only give you 200 stone coins. If it's really as you said a few months later, then I'll give you the remaining stone coins, Su Ming said casually. That won't do. How am I supposed to find you then? The old man quickly shook his head. If it doesn't work, then forget it. Su Ming did not linger. He turned around and was about to leave. Fine. I'll sell it to you. 200 stone coins. 3 months later, you have to give me the rest of the money. There aren't many tribes around here, and there are only a few people. If you don't give it to me, I'll still be able to find you. As the old man spoke, he looked like he was in pain and handed the bag back to Su Ming. This time, Su Ming did not think about it. He took out 2 white stone coins and completed the transaction. Once he took the bag, he left the secluded path. The old man waited for Su Ming to leave before the pained look on his face disappeared. It was replaced by a smug look. He took out another damaged bag from his bosom and put away the herbs on the ground. Only then did he let out a sigh. The lad is very smart. He's even harder to fool than Yi Wang. Yi Wang used 500 stone coins to buy this, but he bought it for just 200 stone coins. Oomph. Once I sell a few more and they get used to using this, then it'll be time for me to reap my rewards, the old man mumbled. His face was gradually filled with excitement and anticipation. Chapter 79. The winter sky might be clear, but it was still cold. However, to berserkers, this sort of cold was bearable. Besides, even if it was winter, it was about to end. It was as if winter did not want to leave and wanted to remind the living beings on the land that it was still around. Snow floated down from the sky. The snow was not big in the beginning, but before long, a large amount of snow fell from the sky, as if it had swept through the sky and earth. A violent gust of wind suddenly appeared, and the moaning sounds of the wind swept through the area. By noon, the snow was already very heavy. It might not have covered the sky and earth, but the snow that was swept up by the wind caused the sky to darken. It was as if the land had suddenly turned dark. Su Ming walked through the streets of the mudstone city. Snow fell on his face and landed on his robes, hair, and some of it even seeped into the beast's skin covering his head and landed on the tip of his nose. The snow came too suddenly. Before Su Ming could even return to Dark Mountain Tribe's lodgings, he was blocked off by the increasingly heavy snow. Su Ming took a few quick steps in the snow and left behind a trail of footprints, but they were soon filled up by the snow and disappeared without a trace. This might be the last snow of this winter. Su Ming's breath was like white fog in the snow. After a moment, when he was certain that no one was following him, he took a few circles and returned to his lodgings. The wind was even stronger, and the snow was even heavier. Su Ming stomped his feet at the door of his room and shook off the snow on his body before he walked into the house. The temperature in the house was much better than outside. Su Ming closed the door and took off the beast's skin covering his entire body. He threw it to the side, then put down the many skin bags containing the herbs. Once he circulated his qi and chased away the cold, he sat down cross-legged and brought out the torn small bag he had traded for to examine it carefully. This bag is amazing. It can actually store so many things in it. But Bei Qiong sold it to me so easily. There must be something off about it. A glint appeared in Su Ming's eyes. He had his suspicions before, and the more he thought about it, the more he felt that there was something off about Bei Qiong's actions. Once he thought about it, he brought out some herbs he did not need and put them into the bag. He tried taking them out again, but he did not find anything wrong with them. I still have to be careful. After all, these herbs are all I have. If anything happens to them, it'll be bad. Su Ming scratched his head and decided not to think about it anymore. He decided to wait for a few days when everything calmed down before asking the elder to take a look at the item. Su Ming put away the small bag and sat down cross-legged. As he circulated the qi in his body, he slowly immersed himself in the berserker art of dark blood dust. He had to seize the time to practice this art so that he could use it in a real battle. As for his original plan to go to the Mudstone City to see if there was anything else he wanted to buy, he canceled that plan due to the heavy snow outside. Snow howled outside the room. Su Ming sat quietly in the room. Time trickled by and soon it was dusk. In the past, when it did not snow, it would still be somewhat bright outside during dusk, but today it was dark. He could not see too far into the distance. All he could see was snow falling from the sky. However, due to the presence of snow, this darkness caused a silver light to appear near him. The snow was still falling heavily. Before long, Su Ming's ears twitched. He got up and pushed open the door to his room. He saw Bei Ling and the others walking in. The people there did not talk about each other like they did the day before. Perhaps it was because the snow was too heavy, but Bei Ling only took a glance at Su Ming before he quickly returned to his room. Wu La's expression was a little dispirited, as if she could not bring herself to do anything. She also returned to her room. Only Lei Chen gave Su Ming a simple smile and approached him. By the looks of it, he wanted to tell Su Ming about what he saw that day. As for the head of the guards, he was frowning. No one knew what he was thinking about. Occasionally, he would look at the sky with a hint of worry on his face. Shan Hen was still as aloof as ever. He no longer paid any attention to Su Ming and returned to his room. Su Ming, the second stage of the test today, was very intense. The speed and strength of the participants is greatly related to their levels of cultivation. Yi Wang is indeed the strongest among the younger generation in Windstream. He's too strong. He's much stronger than Chun Chong, who's ranked second. There's also Bai Su from Black Mountain Tribe. He's definitely our greatest enemy. He's ranked third, and he should be at the 7th level of the blood solidification realm. He's very strong. It's a pity Mo Su didn't show up, or else it would be even more interesting. I didn't get into the top 50. Wu La didn't get in either. Only Bei Ling got into the 49th place. The second stage of the test may have ended quickly, but it was very imposing. I heard that the third stage will only start 3 days later. The actual combat in the third stage should be even more intense. Lei Chen's face was filled with excitement. He talked for a long time in Su Ming's room, telling him everything he saw and experienced. He originally wanted to say more, but when he saw that Su Ming was not very interested, he said a few more words and left with a yawn. He also participated in the test that day. He was a little tired. Once Lei Chen left, dusk passed, and the snow outside became slightly lighter. Su Ming stood up. His heart pounded against his chest. He was nervous but also excited. He walked out of his room. This time, Shan Hen did not appear. Su Ming walked out of Dark Mountain Tribe's lodgings. The sky was dark, but there was a silver glow on the ground. Snow fell from the sky, giving Su Ming an indescribable feeling. He walked in the snow. After a long while, Su Ming changed his appearance and turned into Mo Su. He approached Dark Dragon Tribe's lodgings and stood there, waiting. Time passed by. The snow continued falling from the sky. The door to Dark Dragon Tribe opened without a sound, revealing Bai Ling's beautiful head. She wore a white robe, and there was fur at her collar. She looked very beautiful. She peeked her head out and looked around. When she saw Su Ming, a shy look appeared on her face, but she could not hide her joy. She took a few brisk steps forward and stood before Su Ming. The two of them looked at each other and smiled. "You must have waited for a long time," Bai Ling said softly. "No, I just arrived as well." Su Ming scratched his head and looked at Bai Ling before him. She was the most beautiful person he had ever seen in his life. Bai Ling's slightly red cheeks, sparkling eyes, and the hint of bashfulness in her eyes made Su Ming's heart race even faster. "What are you looking at? You're so silly. Didn't you say you wanted to walk in circles?" Bai Ling's face turned even redder, but she did not avoid Su Ming's gaze. She blinked and laughed softly. That's right. Su Ming touched his nose. As Bai Ling laughed, the two of them walked into the distance in the snow. When the two of them disappeared into the snow, Si Kong stood in Dark Dragon Tribe's lodgings with a complicated look on his face. He wanted to go out and take a look, but in the end, he let out a long sigh. Similarly, in Dark Dragon Tribe, the old woman sat cross-legged in her room. She knew that Bai Ling had gone out, but she did not stop her. In her mind, if Bai Ling could be with Mo Su, it would be the best choice. The wind howled, and snow flew in the air. Su Ming and Bai Ling walked on the path in the Mudstone City. Snow danced around them and shone with an enchanting light. The snow fell on the eaves and on the buildings on both sides of the road, turning the place into a world of snow. There were very few people on the snowy night. Su Ming was very nervous on the way. He was not as quick-witted as he was when he met Bai Ling. When Bai Ling took the initiative to hold his hand, he felt the sweat and softness on her palm. Only then did he feel refreshed and held Bai Ling's hand. Bai Ling lowered her head. Her face was red under the reflection of the snow. She looked very beautiful. "Let's go around in circles," Su Ming said softly and crouched down. A bashful smile appeared on Bai Ling's face, and she lay on Su Ming's back. The warmth coming from Su Ming's body made her very happy. Su Ming smelled the fragrance coming from behind him and felt the warmth coming from Bai Ling's body. He took a deep breath and charged forward. He jumped over the mudstone wall in the distance and left the city. Bai Ling's heart pounded against her chest. She could feel Su Ming's heartbeat as well. She could feel Su Ming running against the wind and snow on the plains outside Windstream Tribe. There was no one around them as he ran further and further away. Snowflakes fell on their bodies, but they didn't feel cold at all. Instead, they felt a warmth in their hearts that seemed to fill the air. Outside the city, Su Ming's appearance changed from Mo Su to his original self. Bai Ling, why do I feel like you've become heavier? Su Ming's laughter was filled with joy in the snowy night. Nonsense. Bai Ling was originally immersed in the warmth coming from Su Ming's back. When she heard his words, she immediately widened her eyes and pinched Su Ming. Su Ming was in pain, but his laughter became even more joyful. He jumped, causing Bai Ling to let out a cry of surprise before he continued running forward. His laughter and Bai Ling's angry voice intersected with each other, creating a beautiful atmosphere. Happy times always pass by quickly. Before they knew it, it was already late at night. Su Ming and Bai Ling walked in the snow, holding hands and talking to each other in low voices. It was as if they had an endless amount of things to say to each other. Their laughter also symbolized happiness. Snow continued falling from the sky. It landed on their bodies and hair, causing their hair to look as if it was about to turn white from the distance. If they continued walking like this in the snowy night, would they be able to walk until their hair turned white? Or perhaps they would only sigh when they said that they had crossed the ocean. Do you still remember the night when we were in Dark Mountain? It was also snowing. I remember that your hair was dyed white by the snow at that time. You too. You became an old woman. Say, if we continue walking in the snow like this, will we walk until our hair turns white? Bai Ling's voice was weak as she held Su Ming's hand and spoke softly. Chapter 80. Snow fell from the sky like a beautiful screen that covered the land. It connected the sky and earth and fused with the passage of time, making it difficult for anyone to forget. The snowflakes flew in the air and floated down before Su Ming. Once they landed on the ground, they were blown up by the moaning wind and danced with the falling snow. There were also some snowflakes that floated before Bai Ling in the wind. They fell through the 2 bone earrings on her ears and fell on her neck, which was hidden under her thick clothes before melting. As he listened to Bai Ling's soft whispers, warmth appeared in Su Ming's heart. That warmth spread through his entire body and turned into a unique feeling. That feeling had a beautiful name. It was called happiness. A beautiful night, beautiful snow, and beautiful people. Su Ming smiled. That happy smile was filled with the innocence of a teenager. He stopped and looked at Bai Ling. At that moment, the girl in the snow seemed to have turned into a picture that would last for eternity and was deeply engraved in Su Ming's memories. White snow, white clothes, a girl as beautiful as snow, and those whispers. Bai Ling was very beautiful. As her eyelashes fluttered, there were some ice crystals on them. As Su Ming looked at her, he felt as if everything around him had disappeared. There was only him and her left in the world. After a long while, when Bai Ling's face turned even redder under Su Ming's gaze, Su Ming lifted his right hand and took off the bone tooth necklace hanging on his neck. He chose the largest beast tooth that was about the length of a pinky and took it off before handing it to Bai Ling. That bone fong was entirely white and shaped like a crescent moon. There were 2 words carved on it, Su Ming's name. There seemed to be a fierce presence within the bone fong. The elder gave this tooth to me when I was 7 and attended my first Berserker's Awakening. It's something I really like. I'm giving it to you. A smile appeared on Su Ming's face, but he was also feeling slightly nervous. There was a special meaning behind giving something like this in the tribe. Bai Ling pursed her lips and her face turned even redder. Her heart also started racing. The sound of her heart pounding against her chest made everything before her disappear. There was only Su Ming left. After a long while, Bai Ling gently raised her jade-like hand and received the bone tooth. The instant her hand came into contact with the bone tooth, her fingers trembled as she gently caught it. Su Ming was nervous. After waiting for a while, he saw that Bai Ling was only looking at Guya and did not do anything else. He could not help but scratch his head and let some of the snow fall from his hair. Bai Ling cast a glance at Su Ming. When she saw his silly look, she could not help but cover her mouth and giggle. A cunning look appeared in her eyes, along with an indescribable gentleness that could melt a person's heart. Um, ahem, aren't you forgetting something? Su Ming blushed when Bai Ling smiled at him. What? Bai Ling was still smiling. That smile was very beautiful. In the wind and snow, it was set off by the snowflakes. It was unforgettable. Su Ming's face turned even redder, but he soon gritted his teeth and looked at Bai Ling. He took a deep breath and said sternly, Bai Ling, I'm your savior. I know. You're my savior. But what does this have to do with me forgetting something? Bai Ling blinked. Of course it's related. Let's not talk about this. The bone earring on your ear is very pretty. Take one off and let me see it. Su Ming thought about it and immediately said. The smile in Bai Ling's eyes became even brighter. Along with it was the cunning look in her eyes. She lifted her hand and touched the white bone earring on her left ear. She looked at Su Ming. My mother left this for me. I'm not giving it to you. Bai Ling giggled. When she saw Su Ming widening his eyes, as if he wanted to snatch it from her, she immediately ran away. Her laughter traveled far in the wind. It was as pleasant as the sound of a silver bell. However, even though she said that, she still held the bone tooth Su Ming gave her in her palm, as if it was very precious. Su Ming glared at her. As if he was unwilling to give up, he quickly chased after her. The two of them laughed happily in the snowy night. Bai Ling still did not give the bone earring to Su Ming, but even though Su Ming did not understand the gentleness in her eyes, he could still feel that something was off. Su Ming, what do you think will be like 10 years later? Will we still be as carefree as before? Bai Ling, who was exhausted, sat down on the snowy ground. She looked at the snow in the sky and asked softly. Su Ming placed his hands behind his head and lay down beside Bai Ling. The snowy ground was very soft. He, too, looked at the snow in the sky and listened to Bai Ling's words. Are you still angry? Bai Ling turned her head. Her beautiful eyes sparkled as she looked at Su Ming with a smile. Don't be angry. I'm not angry. Su Ming let out a harumph, but when he saw that Bai Ling was still looking at him, a smile appeared on his face. 10 years later, we'll still be as carefree as before. And by then, my power will be very high. It'll definitely be very high. Su Ming's eyes were filled with anticipation. The elder told me yesterday that I'll be the same as Yi Wang in Windstream tribe in the future. I'll be trained by the elder of Windstream. Perhaps in 10 years, I'll be close to transcendence. Su Ming smiled. When she heard Su Ming's words, anticipation also appeared in Bai Ling's eyes. There was a happy smile on her face. It was as if she had an endless amount of things to say to Su Ming in the snowy night. Happy times always pass by quickly. Even if there was still some time before dawn, it would still end eventually. Bai Ling also had to return to her lodgings in the tribe. The two of them returned to the outskirts of the mudstone city. Let me send you home. Su Ming crouched down and gestured for Bai Ling to come up. There was a happy smile on Bai Ling's face. She obediently laid on Su Ming's back once again and felt his heartbeat. The feeling of it beating made her blush. You're so silly. Bai Ling mumbled softly on Su Ming's back as Su Ming ran. As they ran, Su Ming carried Bai Ling on his back and leapt into the mudstone city from a secluded corner in the snowy night. His face also changed to Mo Su's. When they arrived at Dark Dragon Tribe's lodgings, Su Ming stopped. Bai Ling came down from Su Ming's back with a hint of reluctance. She looked at Su Ming, at the boy before her. His face might have turned into a stranger, but she would never mistake his eyes for someone else. Su Ming also looked at Bai Ling. The two of them stared at each other in the snow on the street. All right, don't be angry. Bai Ling lifted her hand. Just like the last time they parted, she straightened Su Ming's clothes and flicked away some of the snow on his clothes. There was a gentle smile on her face. The bone earrings on your ears are really pretty. Su Ming chuckled. When she saw Su Ming behaving this way, Bai Ling smiled once again. As she smiled, she looked at Su Ming deeply. The bashfulness on her face grew stronger once again, and she lowered her head gently. Su Ming, 7 days later is a very important day for me. In the past, I was with my grandmother on that day. This year, I hope that I can be with you. Okay? Bai Ling seemed to have gathered her courage. Her voice was weak, but Su Ming heard everything she said. Surprise appeared in his eyes. He looked at Bai Ling and nodded his head. "This is a promise." Bai Ling smiled shyly and looked into Su Ming's eyes. "Yes, this is a promise. 7 days later, no matter where I am, no matter what I'm doing, I will definitely come and find you," Su Ming said seriously. Snow was still falling from the sky, as if it was a witness to the promise between the two people on the ground. Su Ming did not know whether this was a beautiful moment or a sigh. "Yes, on that day I'll wait for you in the tribe. I'll give this bone earring to you at that time." Bai Ling touched the bone earring on her ears and spoke softly. Even her ears had turned red. "I'll definitely come." Su Ming smiled. He was very, very happy. Bai Ling bit her lip. The bashfulness on her face did not disappear. She turned around and walked towards her tribe's lodgings. When she pushed open the door to the courtyard and walked in, she turned her head back and cast a glance at Su Ming before disappearing through the door. Su Ming stood there, his heart filled with joy. He also looked forward to the promise he made 7 days later. 7 days. Su Ming smiled happily. He turned around and ran in the snow towards his tribe. The snow falling from the sky seemed to know of Su Ming's joy. It accompanied him and spun around, flying up with the wind and blending into the air. Su Ming ran quickly. The joy in his heart turned into warmth that enveloped his entire body, making him forget his troubles and worries. Very soon, he returned to Dark Mountain Tribe's lodgings. When he returned, Su Ming had already dispelled Mo Su's appearance and returned to his original self. He looked at Dark Mountain Tribe's temporary lodgings in the snow not too far away. Su Ming took a deep breath and walked towards the lodgings with joy in his heart. It was quiet in the lodgings. It may have been night, but due to the snow in the sky, the night shone with a silver light. It was not dark. The door to Dark Mountain Tribe's lodgings was shut tight in the snow. It was as if there was an oppressive aura surrounding the place, causing Su Ming to notice at the moment he got closer. This was especially so when he pushed open the door and saw the scene in the courtyard. His entire body trembled, and the joy that had existed in his heart disappeared in an instant. What replaced it was a great change of expression and panic. The head of the guards, Shan Hen, Bai Ling, Lei Chun, and Wu La were all in the courtyard. Most of their faces were filled with panic, fear, and anxiety. Before them was the elder. He sat cross-legged with a pale face. As he panted, there was a pool of black blood on the white snow before him. The moment Su Ming pushed open the door, all the gazes were on him. "Elder!" There was a bang in Su Ming's head. His mind was blank. He ran like a madman and arrived before the elder. He looked at the elder's old face. For the first time, there was a hint of weakness on the elder's old face. There was even some blood on the elder's sackcloth. Su Ming trembled. Chapter 81. "You're back." The elder opened his eyes. There was not a hint of blood on his face, but there was still a kind smile on his face as he looked at Su Ming. "Elder, what? What happened? Elder, you?" Su Ming's mind was in chaos. When he saw the elder's face, tears fell from his eyes. He was afraid. He did not know what to do. His heart was filled with panic. Even his voice was trembling. "Elder, Lei Chun, what happened?" Su Ming lifted his head swiftly and looked at Lei Chun. At that moment, he no longer cared about hiding his power or his identity. Instead, a monstrous rage surged in his heart. He wanted to know just who had injured his elder. Even if he did not have the strength to take revenge, he still had to know. His voice was not loud, but there was an indescribable pressure in his voice. The moment he looked at Lei Chun, tears fell from Lei Chun's eyes. "I don't know either. Elder just came back. All right, listen to me." The elder took a deep breath and stood up. His face was stern as he looked at the crowd. "I went to Black Mountain Tribe," the elder said slowly. The elder spoke slowly. His voice was not loud, but when his words landed in everyone's ears, they sounded like thunder. The head of the guard's expression changed. A barely noticeable glint appeared in Shan Hen's eyes. As for Bai Ling, he took in a sharp breath. Wu La's face instantly turned pale. Su Ming was the same. They knew that the tribe was in danger, and the main problem was Black Mountain Tribe. Even if they did not know everything, but the depression in the tribe over the past few days was enough for them to see some clues. When you went to the second stage of the test, I went to Black Mountain Tribe. I want to see just what level of cultivation by 2 from Black Mountain Tribe is at. The elder spoke calmly. Besides his voice, there was only dead silence around them. It was as if even the moaning wind had disappeared. He is indeed in the transcendence realm. There was anguish on the elder's face. The head of the guard's face was dark. He hesitated for a moment and was about to speak when the elder shook his head slightly, as if he knew what he had to say. I have to go. If I don't know his true power, I don't want my tribe members to leave their homes and become affiliated to Winestream Tribe. Who would want to leave their home that they have lived in for hundreds of years? The elder's face was dejected. We don't have much time. I've already adjusted my breathing slightly. Now, I'll bring you back to the tribe immediately. By 2 might have transcended, but he hasn't fully stabilized his power. I might be injured, but I'm certain that he won't be able to attack immediately. We're moving. Determination appeared on the elder's face, and determination shone in his eyes. He lifted his right hand and swung his arm. Immediately, the snow in the courtyard scattered with a bang, as if it had exploded. As the sound spread through the area, the snow flew up into the sky and crashed against the snow falling from the sky, creating a series of booming sounds. Soon after, an endless amount of crystalline light appeared in the sky and gathered together to form a gigantic python in an instant. The python had a ferocious look on its face. Once it manifested, it immediately descended on Dark Mountain Tribe's lodgings. As it descended, a powerful pressure spread out, causing Lei Chun and Wu La to tremble slightly. Even Bei Ling looked as if he could not withstand the pressure. Bei Ling, Lei Chun, Wu La, the 3 of you can choose whether you want to stay here or return to the tribe with me. If you go back, you'll be in danger. The elder looked at Bei Ling and the other 2. Elder, I'll go back. Bei Ling did not hesitate. He took a step forward with a determined look in his eyes. Elder, Lei Chun won't stay here. Lei Chun clenched his fists. There was a murderous look on his face. He wanted to go back. He wanted to protect the tribe. Elder, Wu La won't stay here either. Wu La gritted her teeth and looked at the elder with determination. The elder looked at Bei Ling and the other 2. He nodded and waved his arm. Instantly, a gust of wind appeared out of nowhere and swept Bei Ling and the other 2 towards the python. Once the 3 of them were on the python, the head of the guards and Shan Hin leaped up and stood on the python as well. Only Su Ming and the elder were left in the courtyard. The elder looked at Su Ming. The love in his eyes was very strong. Su Ming's heart pounded against his chest. He had a bad feeling about this. Before the elder could speak, he immediately said, Elder, I want to go back too. Let's go. You can't go back. The elder closed his eyes, then opened them abruptly and said firmly. Su Ming was stunned. He lifted his head and looked at the elder. Even if you go back, you won't be able to help. We might run into danger during the migration. Stay here and wait for us to come back. The moment the elder finished speaking, he turned into a long arc and charged towards the python in the sky, leaving Su Ming alone in the courtyard. Bei Ling can go back. Lei Chun can, Wu La can too. I'm also a member of the tribe. I want to go back. Su Ming had a strong feeling that something bad was about to happen. He could guess that the tribe was in danger, and the elder did not want him to face the danger. That was why he did not want him to follow them back. In his anxiety, Su Ming was about to leap up. No! The elder closed his eyes. He lifted his right hand and pressed downwards. Immediately, a huge force pressed down on Su Ming's body, causing his body, which was about to leap, to freeze on the ground. Wait here. Don't go out. The elder sat down cross-legged on the python. The python let out a roar towards the sky and gradually rose into the sky. Bei Ling and the others on the python were silent. They looked at Su Ming, who was struggling on the ground, with mixed feelings. Elder, I'm not going to stay here. Su Ming became even more worried and anxious. The more the elder acted this way, the more it meant that the tribe was in danger. Blood veins filled his body, but others could not feel them. Yet there was a strong pressure within his body that spread outwards as if it wanted to break through the elder's seal. Yet the seal was too strong. With Su Ming's own strength, he could not break through it. The head of the guards on the python opened his mouth to say something, but when he looked at the elder, he fell silent. Shan Hen, who was by his side, closed his eyes and did not look at him. The dark python rose into the sky, and the elder on it opened his eyes. There was grief in his eyes as he looked at Su Ming. He did not want Su Ming to go because he wanted to protect him. He did not want Su Ming to be harmed in the slightest. After all, the migration this time would definitely involve death. It was a danger that even he might not be able to protect. No! The elder waved his right hand once again. The snow and wind howled and charged towards Su Ming, who was struggling to break through the seal. In an instant, the snow and wind enveloped him and brought him into his room. In an instant, the snow swept Su Ming from the courtyard to his room. Once the door to his room was shut with a bang, the snow scattered in all directions and filled the area outside the room, turning into a giant prison. The snow formed a strange picture near the door. That picture was the statue of the god of berserkers belonging to Dark Mountain tribe. As it sealed and sealed Su Ming, it also cut off Su Ming's hoarse voice. The snow and wind continued blowing in the sky. The python charged into the sky and soon disappeared from the world. With an incredible speed, it charged towards Dark Mountain tribe. Su Ming, this is the last thing I can do for you. From now on, you must take good care of yourself. Mo Sang sat cross-legged on the python. His face was dull, but there was a will to fight in his eyes. It was a will to fight to the death. Bye too. As the python left into the distance, the snow continued falling from the sky. It fell on the ground, on the mudstone city, on the houses, and on the place where Dark Mountain tribe stayed. It was quiet all around them. Only the moaning of the wind could be heard. It was as if there was nothing else besides that sound. Yet in the sealed room of Dark Mountain tribe's lodgings, there was a roar that could not be heard coming from it. I want to go back to the tribe. I want to protect my tribe. Elder, I want to go out. In the room, Su Ming's hair was a mess as he used all his strength and speed to attack the door. Every single time he attacked, the entire house would tremble, but the seal did not budge. Chapter 82. The seal did not change. When blood flowed out of Su Ming's fists and his voice became hoarse, all those who heard it felt their hearts wrench in their throats. He knelt down beside the door. The door was covered with numerous bloody fist marks. I want to go out. Elder, I want to go back to the tribe. Even if I die, I want to die in the tribe. I want to become stronger. I want to become a powerful berserker. I want to protect the tribe. I want to fight for the tribe. Su Ming cried. His heart was in pain. The elder's farewell, before he left, and the anxiety he felt towards the tribe's danger made him feel incredibly uneasy and afraid. It was especially so when he remembered how weak the elder was and the familiar faces of his tribe members. Su Ming took a few steps back anxiously. If I can't break the elder seal with my power, then I'll do everything I can to increase my power. Su Ming's face was pale. His eyes were bloodshot, but his face was filled with determination. There was only one thought in his head. He had to do everything in his power to get out of this place. It did not matter even if he was severely injured. What he cared about the most was the elder and the tribe. Even if he died, he would die protecting the tribe. As he retreated, Destiny turned around abruptly and stared at the cloud gauze grass and the other herbs he had placed in the house to create pills. These herbs were prepared to create pills. Su Ming knew clearly that if he crushed them into juice and swallowed them, then even if he was a berserker, he would not be able to eat too much at once. It would cause great harm to his body. After all, the way of the berserker had to be done step by step. Yet at that moment, Su Ming gritted his teeth and sat down cross-legged on the ground. He picked up the bag containing the cloud gauze grass. He did not have time to crush them. The tribe's danger, the elder's weakness, and everything else made his anxiety and worry reach a level he had never felt before. He picked up a few cloud gauze grass and put them all in his mouth. He chewed them and took out the juice before spitting out the residue. The juice was bitter, but compared to the bitterness in Su Ming's heart, it was nothing. Su Ming crushed it and swallowed it. Once again, he brought out a large amount of cloud gauze grass and placed them in his mouth, swallowing the juice from the herbs. Slowly, his body started trembling. It was as if there was a flame burning within him, causing his entire body to be drenched in sweat, and all the blood in his body abruptly appeared. The 160 blood veins let out a red light that enveloped the entire room, turning the place into a bloody hell. Su Ming, who was sitting cross-legged in the red light, exuded a terrifying determination. 10, 30, 50. When Su Ming swallowed all the juices from the 100 leaves in the bag and spat out the leftovers, sharp pain shot through his body. That pain came from his abdomen. He knew that this was the consequence of taking too many cloud gauze grass. If he continued, then the pain would become even worse, and eventually his entire body would be filled with this pain. Yet at the same time, he could feel the burning flame in his body growing stronger. The blood veins in his body seemed to be showing signs of increasing. Once he had that feeling, Su Ming brought out another bag of cloud gauze grass without hesitation. Time passed by, and very soon, an hour had passed. Within that hour, Su Ming had continuously swallowed the juice from 700-something cloud gauze grass. This was something that no one could believe or imagine, but it was happening to Su Ming's body. Su Ming's body continued trembling. Sharp pain shot through his entire body, and his chest was especially stuffy. The juice had yet to be digested in his body, but the amount of herbs in his body made him feel as if he could no longer swallow anymore. He even felt like vomiting, but Su Ming let out a low growl and forced himself to endure it. The burning sensation in his body had reached its peak, as if it was about to explode. Su Ming lifted his right hand and slammed it against his chest. With a bang, the burning sensation in his body seemed to have been ignited. As it exploded, blood mist gushed out from all the pores on Su Ming's body. Su Ming's pained moans came from within the blood mist, but at that moment, the blood veins on his body increased. 161, 162, 163. Only when the number of blood veins on his body reached the 167th did it stabilize. Su Ming's face was pale. He stood up abruptly and punched the door. With a loud bang, the door trembled. Blood trickled down Su Ming's mouth, and he staggered a few steps backwards. Not enough. It's still not enough. The elder's determined gaze before he left appeared in Su Ming's mind once again. There was a reluctance to part in that gaze. It made Su Ming's heart ache. He was afraid of losing the elder, afraid of losing his tribe members. He had a strong feeling that if he did not get out, he would never be able to see the elder again. As tears flowed down his face, Su Ming took out another bag of cloud gauze grass and swallowed them. 700, 800, 900. Green liquid flowed down from the corners of Su Ming's mouth. The pain in his body made his veins pop out. As the pain and burning sensation in his body erupted once again, the number of blood veins on Su Ming's body increased once again. However, this time, the blood veins were no longer red. Instead, there was a hint of brown, making them look gray. This meant that Su Ming's body had been injured due to his insane actions. The number of blood veins in his body increased rapidly. 168, 169, 170, and it continued. When the number of blood veins reached 173, Su Ming rushed towards the door. 1 punch, 2 punches, 3 punches. The room trembled furiously, but the door remained shut. Open it, Su Ming roared. This time, he did not use his fists. He used his head and rammed it against the door. With a bang, the door trembled and a crack appeared. The snow statue of the god of berserkers from Dark Mountain Tribe also let down some snow for the first time as it trembled. A trickle of blood flowed down from Su Ming's forehead. His eyes were bloodshot. When the crack appeared on the door, he rammed it again. Yet in the end, He only managed to make a crack appear on the door. He could not open it any further. Despair appeared in Su Ming's eyes. He laughed brokenly and grabbed all the remaining cloud gauze grass. He slammed his palms together, and with a loud bang, all the leather bags containing the cloud gauze grass exploded. The cloud gauze grass within the bags were gathered together by a great force and turned into a ball the size of a head. Su Ming slammed his palms together once again, and the banging sounds continued. The cloud gauze grass was crushed. A large amount of liquid flowed out and turned into wisps of green rain that were sucked into Su Ming's mouth. The moment the liquid entered Su Ming's body, rumbling sounds reverberated throughout his body. The number of blood veins increased rapidly. 175, 177. When the number of blood veins reached 189, it stopped abruptly. Su Ming's entire body turned a sickly shade of red. He took a step forward and slammed against the door. The rumbling sounds reverberated in all directions, and the crack on the door gradually widened. More snow fell from the snow statue of the god of berserkers in Dark Mountain Tribe. There was even a faint crack on the statue. Su Ming's hands were a bloody mess, and the entire door was dyed red with blood. At that moment, Su Ming looked incredibly pathetic, as if he had become another person. His scattered hair was still stained with blood, and his originally handsome face was now twisted with viciousness. When he saw that the crack on the door was becoming bigger, he rammed his head into it once again. "I want to go back." With a loud bang, Su Ming's body trembled, but he did not hesitate. He rammed his head against the door once again. As he continued ramming against the door, the crack on the door widened. The statue of the god of berserkers outside was also filled with fine cracks. It was as if he could immediately rush out of the room. Yet when the crack was about half a finger wide, it immediately stopped spreading. It was as if with Su Ming's current level of cultivation, this was all he could do. It would have been fine if that was all, but once the crack stopped spreading, it slowly closed up. "Elder!" Su Ming screamed in pain. When he saw that the door that he had opened with great difficulty was once again closing up, Su Ming immediately took out a small bottle. Inside it were 3 drops of berserker blood belonging to those in the Transcendence realm. Without hesitation, Su Ming tilted his head back and poured the blood into his mouth. Only 1 drop fell into his mouth. The other 2 drops seemed to be under some sort of restriction and could not fall into his mouth. Su Ming knew that this was the Elder's way of protecting him. When the drop of berserker blood entered his mouth, Su Ming's blood immediately boiled. He opened his mouth and coughed out the drop of berserker blood. He lifted his left hand and pointed at it. Immediately, the drop of berserker blood exploded and turned into a ball of mist. As Su Ming sucked in a deep breath, the mist crawled into his body through his eyes, ears, nose, and mouth. The moment the mist of berserker blood fused into Su Ming's body, his skin turned red. A vast amount of power erupted from his body. At the same time, the blood veins on his body also burst forth at the same time. 190, 195, 201, 209. When the number of veins reached 224, black blood flowed out of Su Ming's eyes, ears, nose, and the corners of his mouth. Yet within his eyes, there was still the determination of his soul. Chapter 83. The minimum number of blood veins required to reach the 7th level of the blood solidification realm was 243. With his current speed, he had already manifested 224 blood veins. He was only 19 more blood veins away from the 7th level of the blood solidification realm. This sort of speed of increase was something shocking to anyone. This was different from the increase in Su Ming's level of cultivation when he was climbing Windstream Mountain. After all, Su Ming had entered fine control with his mind when he was climbing Windstream Mountain. It might have seemed like he had increased a lot, but in truth he was still following the principle of gradual improvement and increasing his blood veins bit by bit. Yet now it was completely different. At that moment, Su Ming was forcefully increasing the number of blood veins in his body. He had used a large amount of cloud gauze grass juice to increase his blood veins. He had also forcefully absorbed a drop of transcended berserker blood after swallowing the cloud gauze grass to its limit. Besides Su Ming, no other rational person would use this sort of method to increase their level of cultivation. After all, this sort of thing was fatal to the body. Otherwise, many people would use this sort of method to increase their level of cultivation. But did Su Ming have any other choice? He could either endure it and not think about the safety of his tribe, the survival of his tribesmen, the possibility of the elder returning, or the possibility that his family might face the threat of annihilation. He could not think about anything else. He could only care about his own safety. If he stayed here and waited quietly, perhaps it would be torture, perhaps he would feel lost and bitter, but his life would not be in danger. Perhaps this was the right thing to do. It was also the path the elder had pointed out to him. After all, in many people's eyes, Su Ming was just a weakling. If he went back, he would only be sending himself to his death. What use would he be? Yet Su Ming did not allow himself to choose this path. All his previous attempts to become stronger was for the tribe and for the elder. He was also a little cowardly, but that cowardice was hidden deep within him. When he ran into this sort of situation, that cowardice immediately disappeared and was replaced by Su Ming's determination and determination. Ever since he was young, the people in the tribe had been very kind to him. There were his friends, the people he was familiar with, his mother who had taken care of him when he was young, the elder who had taught him how to speak, and the kind-hearted people in the tribe, and the things that had happened to him in the past 16 years. He could not be heartless. He knew that his tribe was in danger, but he couldn't just drag out an ignoble existence and do nothing. He couldn't do it, knowing that his tribesmen were facing death, but he couldn't do it. He couldn't do it, knowing that his tribe might be facing extinction, but he couldn't do it alone, waiting silently. He was a young man less than 17 years old. He was also afraid of death. He didn't know any great principles, but he knew that the tribe was his home. Now that his homeland was in danger, he could not turn a blind eye to it. Even if he died, he would die in the battle to protect his homeland. This was Su Ming. Perhaps his impulsiveness had led him to madness. Perhaps his madness was incomprehensible to many people and should be questioned, but all of this existed in his bones. He had long since treated Dark Mountain Tribe as his home. His family was in danger. His friends were facing death. His elder might never see him again. His family members, who had always been kind to him, seemed to be crying. How could he not be mad? As Su Ming's entire body trembled, the berserker blood that was continuously absorbed by him fused into his chi. Under fine control, the berserker blood spread out rapidly, causing the blood veins in his body to show signs of increasing once again. Su Ming's eyes were bloodshot. The madness in his terrifying appearance made him look like a malicious spirit. As the blood veins in his body grew stronger, a powerful force surged through Su Ming's entire body, allowing him to charge forward once again. This time, he did not use his head, neither did he use his fists. He used his body and his shoulders to ram into the sealed door. With a bang, Su Ming's entire body crashed into the door. The door trembled, and cracks appeared on the snow statue of the god of berserkers sealed outside. However, the seal was placed by the elder, Mo Sang. It was impossible for Su Ming to break through it so easily. The elder's goal was clear. He wanted to restrict Su Ming's footsteps and not let him walk into danger. He wanted to wait there. However, the elder was wrong. He did not think that Su Ming would be so determined to do something so crazy just to get out of this place. This was something even the elder did not expect. He only knew that Su Ming would not be willing to give up, but with Su Ming's power, he would not be able to get out of the room. In the elder's eyes, Su Ming would always be a child. Tears fell from Su Ming's eyes. His tears fused with his blood, causing him to look as if he was crying tears of blood. However, Su Ming did not give up. He took a few steps back and rushed forward once again. Booming sounds continued as Su Ming rammed into the door with his body. The moment he rammed into the door, the blood veins in his body increased once again. 227, 231, 233. Boom, boom, boom. The entire room trembled as if it was about to collapse. It was as if the room had turned into a cage, and there was a powerful beast sealed within. Yet as the beast struggled, the cage seemed to be unable to withstand it. More cracks appeared on the snow statue of the god of berserkers on the door. A large amount of snow fell from the statue as if it was about to explode at any moment. But it still remained. I want to protect the tribe. Su Ming's vision was already blurred. As he mumbled, he rammed into the door once again. Booming sounds reverberated in the air. Due to the crash and the rapid absorption of the berserker blood, the number of blood veins in Su Ming's body increased once again. The 233 blood veins turned into 237. I want to go back to the tribe. Su Ming threw all caution to the wind and rammed against the door once again. The rumbling sounds reverberated in the air for a long time, and the crack on the door widened by a large margin. The entire door was covered in blood, and that blood belonged to Su Ming. That blood symbolized Su Ming's determination. I want to fight for the tribe. Su Ming rammed into the door once again. He even used his head to slam against the door. The moment he rammed into the door, the number of blood veins in Su Ming's body shot up from 237 to 243. The moment the number of blood veins reached 243, a powerful force that signified a breakthrough appeared within Su Ming's body. That force was the force that erupted when he broke through from the 6th level of the blood solidification realm to the 7th level. That force surged within Su Ming's body and rammed into the door through his body. The door trembled violently. With a loud crack, a small portion of the door was pushed open. Many of the snow statue of the god of berserkers outside shattered. A large amount of snow spilled out, causing the statue to look broken and incomplete. Yet the power of the seal was still there. However, it seemed that the seal had reached its limit. Su Ming staggered backwards and lifted his head abruptly. The 243 blood veins in his body let out a blood-red light that shone into the sky. His entire body was filled with a brutal presence and pressure. At that moment, he had already moved from the 6th level of the blood solidification realm to the 7th level. The 7th level of the blood solidification realm. He would need 399 blood veins to move from the 7th level to the 8th level. Once he entered the 8th level, he would have become a berserker at the peak of the middle stage of the blood solidification realm. With one more step, he would enter the 9th level, and he would be known as the later stage of the blood solidification realm. It has to be known that within the entire Dark Mountain tribe, the head of the guards and Shan Hen were both at the 8th level of the blood solidification realm. As for the tribe leader, his level of cultivation was higher than these two. Su Ming guessed that even if he was not at the 9th level of the blood solidification realm, he was still very close to it. From this alone, it could be seen just how powerful the 8th level of the blood solidification realm was. It also showed just how rare the 7th level was. It was not that there were no berserkers at the 7th level of the blood solidification realm in the entire Dark Mountain tribe, but there were only a few of them who were at the same level as the tribe leader. Most of them were now the vice chief of the hunters. Among the younger generation, Su Ming was without a doubt the strongest in Dark Mountain tribe, even if he did not care about the fact that he was in mortal danger and forcefully increased his power to this level, and it was still very unstable. Yet Su Ming saw hope. He saw the door trembling and saw the ice statue of the god of berserkers that was formed by the seal breaking apart. He rushed out once again and rammed against the door. Yet even if the door was about to be blasted open and the ice statue of the god of berserkers was broken, no matter how much Su Ming rammed against the door, he still could not break it. It was clear that it was not enough for him to break the Elder's seal with the power of the 7th level of the blood solidification realm. It was just that he was still lacking. Yet this was Su Ming's limit. The sky was filled with snow and the moon could not be seen. In this sort of weather, it was impossible for him to use the power of the moon to burn his blood once again. The snow and wind seemed to be weakening, as if it would stop before long. When that time came, perhaps the moon would still appear in the sky. But if he continued waiting, the torture of time would be something Su Ming could not bear. He was doing this so that he could get out of the room as fast as he could. He wanted to return to the tribe with his fastest speed. If he delayed any longer, he did not even dare to think about the disaster that would befall him. When he saw that the door could not be completely opened, despair appeared in Su Ming's eyes. He staggered backwards with a broken smile on his face. Yet he did not give up. The 243 blood veins in his body continued circulating along with the qi in his body. Inner fine control with the mind. Inner fine control with the mind. The control of fine control that Su Ming had gained when he was in Windstream Mountain erupted in full force. The 243 blood veins on his body disappeared one by one. 215, 186, 162, 93, 75, 47. Finally, when all the blood veins on his body disappeared and there was only one left, Su Ming lifted his head. His eyes shone with a terrifying light. "Elder, you can't stop me from going back to the tribe." Su Ming closed his eyes slowly. After a moment, the moment he opened his eyes, he saw that the only blood vein left on his body was suddenly emitting a red light that grew stronger and stronger at an incredible speed. That was not just one blood vein. As the red light grew stronger, it was clear that Su Ming was using fine control to create more blood veins on that one blood vein. Almost in an instant, the red light from the blood vein reached its peak. It might have seemed like there was only one blood vein, but in truth, there were 243 blood veins stacked on top of each other. That was the true power of fine control. I want to go back to the tribe. I, Su Ming, am a member of Dark Mountain Tribe, and even if I die, I will be the soul of Dark Mountain Tribe. Su Ming clenched his fists. The blood vein formed by the 243 blood veins stacked on top of each other started twisting and spreading towards Su Ming's right fist. Chapter 84. A person's life had its ups and downs, Su Ming did not understand these things. The only thing he knew was that this was what he had to do. The tribe was his home. The moment he hurled his fist forward, Su Ming's right hand let out banging sounds. It was the sound of his bones not being able to withstand the pressure. It was the sound of his flesh being torn apart. The moment his fist landed on the door, the booming sound shook the sky and earth. It was as if the weather changed and the snow in the sky froze for a moment. The door was collapsing inch by inch at a speed visible to the naked eye, turning into countless fragments. As if it was being swept away by a storm, the fragments were blown outwards like leaves. Booming sounds reverberated in all directions. At the instant the door completely shattered, countless cracks also appeared on the snow statue of the god of berserkers outside, but it did not explode together with the collapse of the door. At that moment, there was no door before Su Ming. There were only broken pieces on the ground before him. Yet between him and the world outside, the snow statue of the god of berserkers that was covered in cracks continued floating in midair, letting out a gentle light. It was as if it had turned into an invisible screen of light that never crumbled. It was as if the door was only supporting the invisible screen of light. That was why it was so difficult to break it open. Now that the door had shattered, the real seal was revealed. Yet the light on the seal was not piercing, nor was it dim. It was clear that it was still powerful. Su Ming was not surprised. He had guessed that the Elder Seal would not be broken so easily. Almost the moment the door shattered and the screen of light appeared, Su Ming took a step forward. The blood vein on his body was still emitting a piercing blood-red light. At first glance, as Su Ming moved, it was as if the blood-red light exploded forth, and he hurled his fist forward once again. That punch seemed to have landed on empty air, but in truth, it had landed on the invisible screen of light. The screen of light trembled, but the light on it remained the same. Su Ming's eyes were bloodshot as he continued attacking. After a moment, when the light on the screen of light had dimmed to its limit, blood trickled out of Su Ming's mouth. He took a few steps back and lifted his right hand. He stared at the screen of light, but when he lifted his right hand, he slashed at the empty space to his right. Execution of the three evils. This art was one of the strongest berserker arts in Dark Mountain Tribe. It was said that it came from the real Dark Mountain tribe hundreds of years ago. If he wanted to cast this art, he did not need to practice it. In fact, practicing this art was incredibly easy. Su Ming had been thinking about this art since a long time ago, but since he did not have 200 blood veins, he could not cast it. What was difficult about this technique was its requirement for blood veins. Only when one had 200 blood veins could they perform the first slash. Now, Su Ming had 243 blood veins and reached the 7th level of the blood solidification realm. This was the first time he cast the execution of 3 evils that had always been in his head. The execution of the 3 evils, the killing of the Tai Sui. The so-called 3 evils were also known as the 3 murders. In this world, there are 3 directions: extinction, embryo, and nurture. Extinction is the evil of calamity. Embryo is the evil of calamity, and nurture is the evil of time. They were also known as the 3 arts of plunder, calamity, and time. A long time ago, Dark Mountain Tribe obtained this art from somewhere. When they studied it deeply, the entire tribe was shocked. The location of the 3 evils existed in the world at all times, but the 3 evils were intangible. They could not be seen, nor could they be touched. Perhaps they existed, or perhaps they did not. However, after the powerful Dark Mountain Tribe continued to study it, they gradually found a pattern. Every day, according to a different time, the invisible 3 evils would appear in different locations. That was how they came up with the famous Dark Mountain art in the past, the execution of 3 evils. The ancestors of Dark Mountain Tribe believed that there was a pattern in the world. The 3 evils were only a part of the pattern, but they did exist. All power existed within the pattern. That was why once the pattern was broken, an unbelievably powerful force could be unleashed. As for how powerful it was, even Dark Mountain Tribe did not know. This art was also mysterious. Sometimes it would be incredibly powerful, and sometimes it would be normal. But even if it was normal, it was enough to kill. That was why the execution of 3 evils that was passed down was rather crude. Anyone could cast it as long as they had enough blood veins, but there were almost no people who could truly understand the essence of this art. This was a power that the people of Dark Mountain Tribe could not understand. They could only borrow it, they could not control it. In fact, one of the elders of Dark Mountain Tribe had once said that whoever could truly control the 3 evils would be able to control the pattern of the world. That was the case for Su Ming at that moment. He lifted his right hand and swung it to his right because it was midnight. According to the principles of the execution of 3 evils, the 3 evils in the pattern of the world should be in the north. And to Su Ming's right was the north. The moment he swung his right hand down, the overlapping blood veins on his body shone with a blinding blood-red light. The blood veins in the blood-red light started moving strangely. Once they circled around his right arm 9 times, according to the art Su Ming had inherited, they left his body and fused into the air. This was also the main reason why the execution of 3 evils required 200 blood veins. That was why the art was so strange. The blood veins would leave the body for an instant. If one did not have enough qi, it would be difficult to complete the art. At that moment, Su Ming had a strange feeling. It was as if the air to his right had disappeared and turned into a vast expanse. When he swung his hand down, it was as if his blood veins had turned into a sharp blade and cut through the air. It was as if he had cut through mud. It was a strange feeling. He did not understand why it was like that. All he knew was to cast the art. When his palm landed, the strange feeling disappeared in an instant, and everything returned to normal. Yet at the same time, the dull screen of light before Su Ming started trembling furiously. If anyone took a closer look, they would be able to see that the screen of light was not the only one trembling. With Su Ming as the center, the entire area around him was trembling. Yet even so, even after the screen of light trembled, it still remained. It was as if all of Su Ming's actions did not have much of an effect. After all, this was the Elder's seal. The strength of the seal was not something that Su Ming could break just by swallowing herbs and berserker blood. Su Ming's body trembled. This was the first time he cast the execution of 3 evils. With his current level of cultivation, he could only cut down one of the evils. The strange power made his heart tremble. Yet when he saw the screen of light, despair gradually appeared on his face. He had already thought of everything and used everything he had, but the screen of light was like a ravine that separated the sky and earth. He could see it, but he could not cross it. Su Ming's face was pale. He staggered back weakly, then another. Almost at the same time, the moment Su Ming retreated, his expression changed. He could clearly feel the ground beneath his feet trembling. The roar of a wild beast came from the sealed Windstream Mountain located on the plains far away from Windstream Tribe. That roar was filled with anger. The moment it spread out, the sealed sky and earth suddenly trembled violently. With a loud bang, a giant crack was torn open, revealing Windstream Mountain that towered into the sky. "Didn't I break it from inside?" A gloomy voice came from the beast's roar. The moment the mountain was revealed and the sky and earth were torn open, it was as if the seal had been activated. Soon, the entire Windstream city in the distance started trembling. There was a strange connection between the location where the Mudstone City was built and the seal on Windstream Mountain. When the seal on the mountain was forcefully broken, the connection was activated, causing the Mudstone City to tremble. Everyone's hearts trembled. As the Mudstone City trembled, Su Ming could clearly feel the tremors becoming stronger. In the end, it was as if the ground was tumbling. Su Ming immediately saw the Elder Seal dimming for the first time due to the tremors. His spirits lifted and he let out a low growl. As he growled, the shadow of the moon gradually appeared in his eyes. Yet there was snow and wind outside, and the moon could not be seen. Yet in Su Ming's eyes, the shadow of the moon became clearer. Almost at the instant the shadow of the moon appeared in Su Ming's eyes, he charged towards the screen of light. As he crashed into it time and time again, and as the ground trembled, the screen of light became dimmer. After a moment, when the tremors reached their peak and the Mudstone City was about to crumble, the screen of light let out a bang and most of it shattered. The light on the screen was completely dimmed. By the looks of it, it was about to crumble. At that moment, Su Ming felt empty. Yet very soon, a red light flashed in the air to his left. A red line appeared out of nowhere and crawled into his right hand. The 243 blood veins that had overlapped with each other appeared once again on his body. Blood scales on his right arm manifested abruptly and turned into a gigantic blood-red eagle. With a roar, it charged towards the screen of light. Booming sounds shook the sky at that moment. The screen of light trembled and crumbled under the impact of the giant eagle's attack. It turned into an endless amount of broken shards that tumbled backwards. The snow statue of the god of berserkers completely crumbled and turned into an endless amount of snowflakes that scattered everywhere. They flew into the sky and crashed into the snow in the sky, turning into a series of booming sounds that reverberated continuously. Su Ming had broken the seal. His body trembled, and he coughed out a mouthful of blood. The blood fell on the ground, and it was a terrifying sight. The blood light formed by the 243 overlapping blood veins on his body became dimmer, as if it could no longer be stabilized. As it scattered, it hid itself within Su Ming's body. Su Ming's face was haggard. His entire body was covered in blood, and his hair was a mess. Yet his eyes were still shining brightly. That light was determination and determination. "I'm out. I have to return to the tribe as fast as I can." Su Ming took a deep breath. He knew that the main reason why he was able to escape this time was because of the strange tremors. Yet he did not have time to think about it. He took a step forward, and his speed was so quick that he almost turned into a long arc as he charged on the ground. Su Ming's greatest strength was his speed. Before he became a berserker, he was already incredibly agile. Now that he was at the 7th level of the blood solidification realm, his speed had already reached a shocking level. He rushed out of Dark Mountain Tribe's lodgings, rushed out of the streets, and jumped down from the walls of the Mudstone City. At that moment, the anxiety in his heart was like a fire burning within him, making him want to be even faster The continuous eruption of his speed, coupled with the fact that he had absorbed a drop of berserker blood and the unbelievable amount of cloud gauze in his body, caused the art that the elder had cast to hide Su Ming's power to show a flaw. It caused his power to be like a flood that broke through the ice. He could no longer hide his power completely. The snow in the sky became much weaker. At that moment, there were only a few snowflakes falling from the sky. It was as if the snow had reached its end, and the moon in the sky was about to be revealed. The ground was covered in silver. Yet in the night, the silver light was not beautiful. Instead, there was a murderous air to it. The sky in the distance seemed to have a blurry edge of white. It was as if a new day was about to arrive. However, no one knew when the darkness before dawn would melt. The entire mudstone city was in an uproar. Many of the tribe members walked out with fear and confusion on their faces. They did not know what was going on. There were even houses collapsing one by one. It was as if the apocalypse had arrived. Su Ming did not have time to care about these things. He charged forward, and the moment he jumped down from the mudstone city walls amid the chaos, a sense of danger enveloped him. "You can't leave." A cold voice traveled out. Su Ming's footsteps faltered, and a person walked out from the darkness behind him. He was dressed in red, and there was a heat that seemed to be able to burn others. His face was cold, and there was an arrogance that came from deep within his bones. It was Yi Wang. By the elder's orders, no one who is not a member of Windstream Tribe is allowed to leave Windstream City tonight. You're very strong, but your chi is chaotic. I'm in charge of this area. You are not my opponent. Yi Wang looked at Su Ming calmly and spoke slowly. Su Ming turned around abruptly and glared at Yi Wang. His eyes were bloodshot, and there was viciousness and madness within them. His gaze fell into Yi Wang's eyes, and it made Yi Wang's heart tremble. He was somewhat familiar with that gaze. Chapter 85. I've read all of the posts in the book review section. Some are skeptical, impulsive, irrational, supportive, praising, and understanding. I think I should elaborate. First of all, I thought about this plot before I wrote it, but I still wrote it. Su Ming is a 16-year-old boy. Compared to the elder, there's more than half a lifetime difference between them. There's a saying that goes, those who are young don't read the 3 kingdoms. Those who are old don't read the water margin. It means that people of different ages have different ways of doing things. The elder is very wise. He wants to protect Su Ming. His way of thinking is also more rational. As the saying goes, where there's life, there's hope. He knows very well whether the tribe is in danger or not. That's why he didn't let Su Ming leave in a hurry. He knows that once he leaves, the tribe might perish. If he leaves Su Ming, he'll leave a successor. This was very reasonable. Any elder would have done the same. Don't forget the elder's age. As for Su Ming, he's only 16 years old. It's not that he doesn't understand all of this, but the more he understands, the more he wants to go back. He's impulsive because I think that a 16-year-old child, especially when he's in a tribe, doesn't want to live alone. He wants to live and die with the tribe. His power is limited, but sometimes, especially in a tribe, if everyone thinks the same way and wants to live and die with the tribe will be destroyed before the enemy even arrives. When their home is in danger, some people keep telling themselves to endure and take revenge in the future. Then they hide or leave their home. Wang Lin never went back to the Tung family for revenge before he reached the nascent soul realm. But some people are silly and irrational, but they're adorable because their thoughts are not complicated. It's not that they don't know how to endure, but they don't want to. They want to protect their home, even if it means their lives. Compared to coming back to take revenge in the future, he cares more about what's in front of him. He wants to die with his home. Even if he faces an irreversible death, he wants to smile and shout, "Don't leave me behind on the road to hell." You can disagree with Su Ming. You can laugh at me for not knowing how to write. But please don't criticize or question the unwavering will expressed in this plot. As for the lack of foreshadowing, I think it's just right. The 200,000 words in front are enough. But I admit that there's one mistake. I used too many words in the description, and it had the opposite effect. The level is limited, and I need to improve. Chapter 86. Su Ming lifted his right hand. With a flash of red light, blood scales immediately appeared in his hand. The long spear was entirely blood red, as if it was stained with a large amount of blood. It let out a strong force of impact. A presence similar to when he climbed Windstream Mountain erupted from Su Ming's body. He did not speak, but faced Yi Wang in silence. Yi Wang's pupils shrank. He could clearly feel a familiar presence coming from Su Ming's body. There was no way he would mistake that presence. In his eyes, the frail teenager before him seemed to have slowly turned into another person. The person who made his breathing quicken. The person who he thought was the only one who had the right to fight against him. You're Mo Su. Yi Wang was not an ordinary person. When he combined the fact that he was sent by the Berserker guards to patrol the area, he immediately understood what was going on. Dark Mountain Tribe is in danger. I have to go back. If you stop me, then you'll be my enemy. Su Ming cast a glance at Yi Wang, then turned around and ran away. He had already made his decision. No one could stop him. When he saw Su Ming running into the distance, a glint appeared in Yi Wang's eyes. A hint of hesitation appeared in his eyes. The drastic change in the Mudstone City made him anxious, but that anxiety and hesitation only lasted for a moment before disappearing. It was replaced by a strong desire to fight. If it was anyone else, Yi Wang would definitely not have such a desire to fight. To him, no one in the same generation as him had the right to fight against him. Yet after the first stage of the test, in Yi Wang's heart, the only one who had the right to fight against him was Mo Su. Yi Wang might have seemed to be on par with Mo Su in the first stage, but he knew that he had lost. He had returned unconscious, and Mo Su had returned to the field awake. Yi Wang looked forward to fighting with Mo Su in the second and third stage. He wanted to prove that he was the best among his peers. Even though he could guess that the reason Mo Su did not participate in the following test was most likely because his level of cultivation was not high, Yi Wang was a proud person. If he wanted to fight, he would definitely not use his level of cultivation to suppress others. Mo Su. Yi Wang lifted his head swiftly. His voice was cold, and as it traveled into the distance, he took a step forward with his right foot and charged towards Su Ming like an arrow that had just left the bow with a whoosh. You can't leave. Yi Wang's red robes were like fire. As he leaped into the air, his body was illuminated by the snow on the ground. He seemed to have become the most eye-catching person in the world. His power was already at the 8th level of the blood solidification realm, but he was being suppressed by Yi Wang, forcing himself to remain at the 7th level of the blood solidification realm. He was a proud person. He believed that even if he had to fight, he had to do it. Even if he won, he would make his opponent lose completely. Banging sounds came from Yi Wang's body. The instant his power was limited to the 7th level, he was already less than 100 feet away from Su Ming. His body was like fire, and at that moment, he lifted his right hand and seized the air in Su Ming's direction. With that one grab, Yi Wang's entire body seemed to have erupted into flames. His skin turned red, and even his hair looked as if it had turned into crimson flames. A sea of fire surged out from his body and turned into a gigantic hand of flames before him that charged towards Su Ming to grab him. At that moment, the hand of fire was in front, and Yi Wang was behind it. They rushed towards Su Ming together with the giant hand of fire. Su Ming's footsteps came to an abrupt halt. The snow around his feet instantly melted into water and turned into a ball of white mist that rose into the air. A burning sensation descended from the sky and enveloped Su Ming's entire body. At the instant he froze, he stomped on the ground with his right foot, and as he rose from the ground, he turned around. From the distance, the hand of fire was less than 30 feet away from Su Ming. By the looks of it, it wanted to seize Su Ming's body and crush him until he was reduced to ashes. Fire. Su Ming stood in midair. His gaze pierced through the hand of fire and saw Yi Wang charging towards him. The moment the hand of fire closed in on him, Su Ming bit his tongue and coughed out a mouthful of blood. That mouthful of blood was not a result of Su Ming risking his life. It was a requirement of his berserker art. The moment he coughed out the blood, 243 blood veins appeared on Su Ming's body. They twisted and turned into a strange picture. Instantly, the blood he coughed out exploded and turned into a mist of blood. This was the dark blood dust art. It turned blood into a mist of dust and released a powerful burst of chi. The moment the mist of blood charged towards the hand of fire, it was also engulfed in flames. It was no longer a mist of blood. It was a burning red mist of fire, using fire against fire. After the third burning of Su Ming's blood, a drastic change occurred in his body. The most distinct change was the burning sensation in his blood. At that moment, the burning mist of fire and the hand of fire were getting closer to each other in the sky. In an instant, they crashed into each other, and a shocking boom erupted. As the boom reverberated in the air, the hand crumbled. It was as if it was devoured by the mist of fire. The mist of fire swept through the area and sent it flying towards Yuan. It looked as if the sky was burning, as if it wanted to devour everything in the world. Su Ming remained silent. His eyes were bloodshot, and with one move, he charged forward with the fire fog. He lifted his right hand, and blood scales let out a piercing red glare in his hand. He threw the spear forward. A piercing whistle rang through the air. The blood spear turned into a red bolt of lightning. Once it pierced through the mist of fire, it turned into a giant red eagle. With the mist of fire, it charged towards Yuan, whose expression had changed drastically. Yuan's heart trembled. His pupils shrank. He did not expect Mo Su to be so strong. It was just as Mo Su had said. If he continued to restrict his power, he would not have a chance of winning this battle. Without any hesitation, he immediately retreated. He no longer restricted his power. All 435 blood veins on his body appeared, and his true power erupted forth. At the same time, he lifted his right hand and threw a punch forward. Light flashed on his right hand, and a black beast skin glove appeared. That glove exuded an awe-inspiring presence. It was clearly a berserker vessel. As he threw his punch forward, booming sounds echoed in the air. A black gust of wind appeared out of nowhere before Yuan. As he threw his punch forward, it turned into a black whirlwind that seemed to be able to sweep through the sky and earth. As it swept through the air, it crashed into Su Ming's long spear and the mist of fire. Booming sounds echoed in the air. Su Ming's body was 478 steps back, but at the same time, Yuan's body also trembled and he was forced back 4 to 5 steps. His body was incredibly serious. Yuan did not stop. He leapt up and closed in on Su Ming in an instant. Su Ming, too, rushed out. At that moment, he brought forth his greatest speed. His entire body looked as if there were afterimages left behind as he engaged in a fierce battle with Yuan. From afar, it looked as if there were numerous Su Mings appearing around Yuan. Booming sounds echoed in the air. After a moment, with a sound that shook the sky, blood trickled down the corner of Yuan's mouth. He only stopped after retreating 100 feet. When he lifted his head, he saw Su Ming coughing out blood and also retreating 100 feet. What a shocking speed. His level of cultivation isn't as high as mine, but with this speed, if I injure him once, he can injure me multiple times. This person is indeed the only one who has the right to fight against me. Yuan was shocked, but his will to fight grew stronger. He lifted his left hand and pointed towards the sky. Mo Su, I'm going to fight with everything I have next. Just as Yuan finished speaking, a shocking change that no one could have imagined happened at this moment. From the tall elder's altar within Windstream City, a furious roar suddenly came out. Thief! How dare you destroy my sacred mountain? That voice belonged to Jingnan. He appeared in midair in an instant and charged towards Windstream Mountain. At the same time, another incredibly powerful presence rose into the sky from within the Mudstone City and charged towards Windstream Mountain along with Jingnan. The second presence of a berserker in the Transcendence realm belonged to a woman. It was an incredibly beautiful middle-aged woman. Yuan was stunned. His heart trembled. A glint appeared in Su Ming's eyes. Without any hesitation, he quickly retreated and ran into the distance. His battle with Yi Wang made him incredibly anxious. He did not want to fight. He had to hurry back to the tribe. With that chance, Su Ming's speed was incredibly fast. In an instant, he was already hundreds of feet away. Yi Wang's expression changed. He no longer paid any attention to Su Ming, who was already far away. Instead, he turned around and ran towards the city. He did not know what had happened, but he had a bad feeling about it. At that moment, in the vast plains outside Windstream Tribe, within Windstream Mountain, which had been sealed and hidden for generations by Windstream Tribe, was a shocking change. On the field at the foot of the mountain, Hai and the other 8 people's faces were filled with fear and shock. They looked at the world before them with dumbfounded expressions. Their eyes were filled with disbelief. Right before their eyes, the world was continuously twisting, as if there was a giant hand fiddling with it. A gigantic crack appeared between the sky and the earth, as if it was connected to the sky and the earth. Within the crack, Windstream Mountain was completely revealed. Black fog rose into the sky from the mountain. As the clouds rolled about, the roars of wild beasts echoed in the air. At that moment, as the wild beasts roared, a ghastly laugh traveled forth. What a fire berserker's great rock! It may just be a divine clone, but it still has such power. My many years of searching for the ruins of the fire berserker tribe was not in vain. That voice was completely unfamiliar to Hai and the others. The moment they heard those words, their expressions changed. They looked at each other, then, without hesitation, they rushed out towards Windstream Mountain within the crack. They were members of Windstream Tribe. An enemy had invaded their sacred mountain. At that moment, they could not retreat. However, just as the 9 of them leapt up and were about to enter the crack, they heard a cold snort coming from the mist on the mountain. A purplish-red arm, several hundred feet long, suddenly stretched out from the mist and waved gently at Hai and the others from a great distance away. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.